Morning. This is another episode of Don't Say Nothing Stupid Podcast, DNS. Right here. We right here at Don't Say Nothing Stupid Podcast and in the building. In the building, we have with us today none other than Dr. Jacqueline Brooks. Y'all stand up and give her a big warm welcome. Let's go. All right, all right. And also, I'm your host today, DJ Buddha Rush. And with me, my co-host is
Amateur Chef Street.
Jeff Street. So yeah, for this Jeff Street.
Don't forget the amateur. I don't want nobody to be mad at me.
Yeah.
Them chefs, boy, they get serious. I'm just an amateur having
Right.
fun.
And this is a positive pipeline podcast that we get individuals from our community to come in and tell us some about themselves and tell stories that they have never been told or been told very rarely. And that's what we do. And we got people that make a very, very great impact in our community. And we all this month we are doing a Women History Month. So what we are going down the list all month long in the month of March, we're going to be dealing with nothing but our women in our community. But guess what, you guys? Let's go ahead and get this thing kicked off. I know you guys been waiting and debating what's going on, but Dr. Brooks.
Yes, sir.
She is in the building. We have a question. Let's start off right. You ready to start off, Willie? Are you ready?
Let's
get
dive
it.
in.
Let's dive in. Okay, we're gonna start off with our first question, Dr. Brooks. Where you from? And if you're from Tuskegee, let us know how you came up in Tuskegee and how was it the time that it was when you was coming up in Tuskegee, and give us a small background about all about how you grew up and where you're from and all that good stuff there.
All right. Well, I am Tuskegee born.
Okay.
1968, John Andrew Hospital, delivered by the
John Andrew, baby.
That's
John
right.
Andrew.
All right, John Andrew, baby.
As my grandmother would say, John Andrews Hospital. We put the S on all
That's
of
right.
it. Walmart's, Belk's, Kmart's, and John Andrews.
Right.
1968, Dr. Foster and Macon County, and so I claim Tuskegee because that's my birthplace. But
Right.
actually, the community where I grew up is near South Macon High School,
Okay.
home of the Wolverines.
Wolverine.
Royal blue and gold.
Okay.
Wolverines.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Oh, that was
that's
y'all
what it is.
song?
Oh, we had a
Wolverine.
song. We had a song, Spirit Field.
Okay.
And that school, of course, is now closed, but that's the community where I grew up.
Okay.
No red lights.
Okay.
Few stop signs and a rolling store coming through
Okay.
every Monday and Thursday for the grocery shopping, the now laters, the knee-high peach soda,
There it is.
the honey buns,
Yeah.
the hoochie
You
and a
taking them
slice of
back.
South meat.
Yes.
So that's where I grew up. Bona fide country.
Okay.
Bona fide country.
Okay.
Hog raising.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I know the smell of a hog pen as soon as I pick it up.
Right.
I was the crackling stirrer.
Wow.
The chitlin slosher.
Okay.
All of that.
Yeah.
Bringing the chicken necks.
Man.
Picking the plums, the strawberries, making
Right.
the strawberry muck-ups and pies.
Yeah.
Bursting the watermelons out of Mr. Oldsaw, the plantation's owner's patch. So
Wow.
a little thievery was in my blood, even though we went to church every Sunday. We also got to throw a sack of corn out of the man's field all during the summer. So it was quite interesting, So, yeah, we went to everybody's church in the neighborhood.
Okay.
Looked like we churched about 7 days a week.
Right,
We went
right.
rober, choir rehearsal, usher practice, all of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, real rich upbringing.
Right. Okay.
My mother was a law enforcement officer here in Macon
Okay,
County
okay.
for over 30 years under Sheriff Amerson.
Okay.
But I was raised by my grandmother. I was what you call an outside child, if you know
Okay.
what that is.
Gotcha.
And so my dad owned the local barbershop here, Bray's Barbershop.
Barbershop.
My
Okay.
brother's still there running it, Baybra.
Ray bro. What
And-
Ray bro real name?
His name is William Bray Jr.
William
He's
Bray,
named
okay.
after,
Hold.
our dad.
Let's rewind. Because I didn't know this.
Yeah.
So, Babra Jr. is your brother.
He's my
Brother.
brother.
I never knew that.
Really?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yes.
We was talking about Braid Up.
Yeah,
Braid
yeah.
Up
That
the
was
other
we
day.
was
was
trying to
talking
get him
about
here.
Trying to get him in here.
We need to get Bray here when we
That's
start
a
back doing it. Yeah,
legendary spot.
legendary.
Well, get ready because
ready.
I mean he is highly intellectual.
That's right. That's right.
Genius IQ.
Right, right.
Yes.
Shout out to
Yes,
bro.
yes. Get ready. He's going to be deep and
Okay.
moving.
Okay, great.
Yes.
We need to get him in here.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Let's see what else. Went to Lewis Adams for
Okay.
Head Start because
Okay.
we didn't have a Head Start program in the South Macon area at that time, nor
Okay.
did we have a kindergarten program.
Okay.
So I went to kindergarten at Tuskegee Public.
Okay.
I remember very vividly when I was 5 years old that we had a situation where the school suffered a catastrophe. And some people said it was a fire.
Right.
Some people said the KKK bombed the school. There
right.
were just all kinds of stories.
right.
But my grandmother picked up on the KKK bombing the school. So she was really
Wow.
concerned about what was going on. And of course, I was little. I didn't realize the whole segregation, integration,
Right.
Macon Academy situation
Right,
that
right,
was
right,
going
right.
on
Yeah.
in the county. And so that's one of the things. We have so much history here and so much past, but a lot of times you're living in it, but you don't know it.
Don't know it. That's
And
right.
so I
Absolutely.
never realized really until I actually left Macon County, Tuskegee, Alabama, how remarkable we were in terms of our own history.
Right,
And
right.
so that has been something that has been, eye-opening to me. And it was similar when I lived in another state. The kids who were in the state didn't realize the resources they had.
Right,
They were
absolutely.
appreciated more by people who came in for tourism and those
Right.
kinds of things. And
Right.
so that was kind of an anomaly that I experienced growing up in the county. But the other thing is Tuskegee was just so rich when I was growing up. I mean, all my friends in Bullock County, Russell County,
Right.
Lochapoka, Montgomery, they all wanted to come to Tuskegee
Tuskegee,
because
right.
we just had it,
Going on.
going
Going
on.
on.
All of our
Right.
shops downtown. My daughter has a hard time, who's a senior now at Booker T. Washington High School. She has a hard time visualizing
Right.
when I try to tell her how rich it was, and I could go to the hobby shop, and I could go to the
Oh,
Western
yeah.
Auto, and I could go to Daniel's and get, just a
Daniel's,
top-notch
yeah,
outfit,
Levi's,
and
Lee's,
Levi's,
yeah,
all
yeah.
those kinds of things, and movie theater. And she's
Yes.
like, "You went to a movie theater?" Myself, yeah, we had a movie
Club
theater by the
Exchange.
Alabama Exchange Bank. Had clubs here. Back then, we had Turning Point. This
That's
is
right.
before y'all a little
Yeah.
younger than me.
Right, right.
So we had the Turning Point.
Right.
We had Last Chance Club, First Chance Club, Second Chance Club. We
Wow.
just had a lot of things. We had our own radio station. You would fall asleep at night as a young teenage girl just listening to Costy's voice.
Yeah.
Just say, that was
Yes.
before I met him now.
Yeah.
But we said, "Ooh, I know this is a dark, tall, handsome man here." And that voice would just mesmerize you. You know what I mean? Oh, WBIL. 96 point, what is it, 7 or 8? 96
Yeah.
point whatever, FM.
you
And
know,
it was
WBIL,
wonderful.
yeah.
WBIL. And you had Nurse Goodbody. You had Mandingo.
That's right,
I mean,
Mandingo.
they were just
S.A. the DJ.
stunning. S.A. the DJ. And then S.A. had a suit store
Right.
in what we now call Ford's Crossing. And so if you were a man, you could go get outfitted from
Right,
head to
that's-
toe
that's
and
right.
just be so classy.
Right.
And so we had so many just positives
That's right.
in the community. I had just a wonderful childhood. As I said, my mother, even though I didn't stay with her at night, I stayed with my grandmother through the week.
Okay.
Many times I would be in town, as we called it.
Right.
And I would go over to the sheriff's department, which was where CVS is
Absolutely.
now.
That's right.
That's where the sheriff's department
Right.
was. And then right down the hill, we had Joe's Dairy Bar.
That's right.
And I mean, you talk about the vibes of the day.
That's right.
A chili dog,
Oh.
Chili dog, yeah.
French fries, and for me, a banana milkshake.
Favorite. Everybody favorite.
Ooh,
Everybody favorite.
just brings back memories.
Memories,
I
right.
mean, I can see it and smell it right now. It was just so rich,
I remember the
you
Dairy
know,
Bar,
and
though.
just so positive. And then we had Big Bear.
Big
This
Bear.
was before Calhoun Foods.
Big Bear.
We had Big Bear. We had the old Big Bear. And then Big Bear got a new store, across the street.
Right.
And then we had Winn-Dixie, which is where Piggly Wiggly is
Right,
now.
right.
Then we got the new Winn-Dixie down in Forest Crossing. So everything was full. We had Payless shoes.
Payless shoes.
We had other shoe stores. We had a Family Dollar before the current Family Dollar
Right.
came back.
Right.
And it was in Ford's Forest Crossing. You know, we had the Walmart. And when I was a senior in high school, I won the Walmart scholarship.
Wow.
And actually worked at Walmart February, March, April, and May before I graduated from high school.
Wow.
And
Okay.
Vanessa Lee, who works at the university now,
Yeah,
John Black's
John
mom,
Black.
she was one of the managers there. And so
Wow.
she trained me
Okay.
at Walmart when I
Wow.
was in high school. And SA
The DJ.
became a manager
Right.
at Walmart
Right.
when I was there. Yeah, so
Wow.
just a
What was
rich
the
history.
store? I was sitting here thinking, what was the store? It was in Forest Crossing. Was it Refco?
Revco
was
Drug
in the middle,
Store.
Refco, yeah.
Yeah,
I was in the
Revco
Refco.
Drug
Store,
Store was
right.
there. Yes,
Right
that's
there in the
where
middle.
you got all of your prescriptions. And then we had the privately owned drug stores around town. You know, you had Robinson's
Robinson.
Drug
Mhm.
Store.
Robinson's Drug
And
Store.
then you
Robinson.
had Rexall,
Rexall
downtown
town,
where
right.
the wrought iron
Right.
Decory is out front,
Right.
Ironworks.
Right.
Yeah, so it was just booming. It was
Booming.
just booming. Even up until I graduated, left here. I didn't get the scholarship I was looking for at Tuskegee University because that was where I intended
to go.
to
Okay.
go. But being on my grandmother and mother's salary at the time, which a sheriff deputy was in poverty basically with the salary. I don't think they're too much better now,
Right.
but with the salaries that they were being paid then. And so we qualified for Pell Grant, but
Okay.
Pell Grant wasn't enough to send me to school. And even though my father was nearby because I was an outside child, I
Right.
wasn't in the household budget
Got you.
for college. So I had to depend on Pell Grant, and I knew I needed a scholarship. And so probably in January of my senior year,
Okay.
I got a presidential scholarship to Alabama State.
Wow.
So even though Alabama State was really the enemy,
Right. Yeah.
I knew that I had to befriend the
Okay.
Hornets
That's right.
in order to get my college education. It
That's
was
right.
a good experience, because actually my boyfriend at the time had gone down a year before me. He was
Okay.
playing basketball there.
Right.
And a
Okay.
lot of my friends and family said, "Oh, you're following him." No, I wasn't following him. I was following the bankroll.
That's right.
I was following the scholarship. And
So
so
how was the HBCU area back in that day?
well, it could
I
be
don't want you to tell us anything to get you in trouble.
Don't say that.
Like the Hulu episodes out now, they talking about the Freakniks.
Right.
stuff.
Right. Right. Right.
We don't want you to say anything to get you in trouble.
well, it could be what you wanted it to be. I'm going to put it like that. So, one of my first it could be what you want it to be experiences was that everybody told me you need to go to Top Flight.
Top Flight.
You
Oh
want
yeah.
to have a good time. You need to go to Top Flight. So I went to Top Flight once.
Okay.
And that was enough. I had that experience.
Right.
But there were many people who majored in Top Flight.
Major.
And you could major in a lot of things when you have the HBCU experience. So you could major in Top Flight if you chose to.
right.
But again, I didn't have anybody's money I was on. I was on a scholarship. So
Gotcha,
I knew
yeah.
whatever I did, I had to keep that scholarship if I wanted to graduate.
Right.
You also had the whole Greek, vibe going on there. And when I was there, we had a lot of hazing. I mean,
Yeah,
a lot
real
of
hazing back in
hazing.
the
I
day,
mean,
yeah.
it was real.
Yeah.
We had girls pushing girls. I remember a girl got pushed out of the window at Bibb Graves
Wow.
and had a broken leg. I'm not going to call the name of the sorority, but it's not the one I'm in.
Yeah.
And and then we had two boys fraternities that were just off the chain. I mean, you were just scared to walk down the sidewalk because you didn't know what was going to happen. And I'm not going to call any names, but they do wear purple and gold, but you were in fear. You were in fear at Alabama State because you didn't know what they were going to do. You didn't know if they were going to grab you, grope you, bark at you, or what. But you knew to go to the other side to walk down the sidewalk. So HBCU is different. I gained a new respect for the band.
Oh yeah.
It is not the football team. It is not the ROTC. It is not any other extracurricular activity I can think of that puts in as much work
That's right.
as the band.
Yeah,
they
do.
I agree.
practice around the
They
clock.
do.
And so to be able to keep their grades up, keep scholarship up, play for practically every season and still go to class,
That's right.
I admire any person who takes on a collegiate band pathway. But I enjoyed the marching hornets. That was a part of my delight. I enjoyed the athletics. Back then Turkey Day Classic
Oh yeah.
was
Oh,
really
Oh my
big. And
God.
oh
now
my
some
God.
kids don't really understand
That's right.
Turkey Day Classic because with different administrations,
Mhm.
it was moved
Mhm.
around. Some
Mhm.
of the agreements between
Right.
the universities, didn't work out. And
Right.
so it was not held for several years,
Mhm.
but that was really a tradition of traditions, the
Mhm.
Turkey Day Classic, and
And
I enjoyed that.
I remember looking forward to Turkey Day Classic and Morehouse
Morehouse
Classic.
Classic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yes.
my mama would get outfits for that Morehouse. Boy, you can tell me I
Right.
wasn't clean.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
you're
I
gonna
rem-
be clean.
It,
You're
it, it
gonna
was
be clean.
mandatory.
Yeah,
It
that
was
was
a
your
fashion
fashion
show.
It was
show.
a
It was a
fashion
fashion
show.
That
show.
was your
Yeah.
fashion show. I
Yeah.
mean,
I
hair
was
done,
tummy
Right.
up, finger
everything.
down, duck head
Right.
down.
Right.
That was it. That was it. That was it. That
Car
was
could
it.
not.
Yeah.
You
Oh
know.
yeah.
That
You
was
got to be
it.
fresh, man.
That was it. I wish we would get a Turkey Day or Tiger Turkey Day
Mhm.
basketball game
Game.
between the
Right.
boys at Tuskegee and the boys at Alabama State and the
Right.
That would
girls
be
at
dope.
That'll be
Tuskegee
real nice.
and the girls. I think that would be really good to help bring some of that vibe
Vibe.
back.
That's right.
And
Mhm.
I think that it would be a good
Sure.
financial
That's right. Revenue.
process,
Mhm.
revenue for both universities if we could get that going. I think we could do Tiger Turkey Day Classics in almost every
Every
sport
sport.
Every
that we
sport.
Yeah.
Every
have.
sport.
I would
And
love
it
to
would do
see that.
good. It
It
Yeah,
would
would
do
do
I
real
would
good.
good.
love to see that.
Right. Right. Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So that's kind of my upbringing. As a child, I was strong willed. Probably the reason I went into education. I know that I was an at-risk child coming from the home
Mhm.
situation I
Mhm.
came from.
Mhm.
Luckily, I had great teachers.
Okay.
I had great teachers at South Macon, and so I was able to read very well. I
Mhm.
was able to comprehend very well, and so my books kept me grounded.
Mhm.
But now I was a talker.
Okay.
I'm still a talker. I was sassy. I got a lot of whippings. But I went to church every Sunday, so
Okay.
I feared God. So that
That's right.
kept me from crossing, a lot of boundaries. Not to say I didn't cross any, but it kept me from crossing, a lot of boundaries and keeping me
Okay.
in
Now,
line.
what really brought you into the career and the goal that you're in now, for us, like superintendent and all that in education? What really brought you into that?
Well, actually, it was really kind of haphazard
Okay.
because when I was little, my auntie Doretha and my cousin Micah always say I was bossy. And I always had all because I was an only child for
Oh, okay.
most of my life. I have
Gotcha.
a sister, but we're 15 years apart.
Okay. Gotcha.
So by my mom, a sister
Okay.
by my mom. Of course, I also had a sister by my dad, but we didn't even know each other growing up.
Mhm.
Um, but I would always line them up, get chairs, tell them what to do, have a
Mhm.
switch.
Mhm.
I was always teaching. I was always in the
Mhm.
Right.
teaching
Right.
mode.
Right. Right.
What's this alphabet? What's this
Right.
word? That kind of thing. However, I knew I wanted to be in a service career, but really where I had intended to go was nursing,
Okay.
which is
Oh.
why
Okay.
I was
Okay.
looking at Tuskegee University.
Right.
Nursing program.
Well, in talking to the counselors back in the day, which is not quite as refined as counseling is today, I had an Alabama State scholarship. And Alabama State didn't have nursing. Well, they're like, well, you could look at biology, you could do
Mhm.
something, but it would require additional schooling.
Right.
So when I got to Alabama State and I started thinking about it, I actually ended up going the education route.
Okay.
So I could teach biology education, English education, whatever I ended up specializing in. So that's how I ended up switching to education because it was still a service industry. It was still helping people. And Alabama State
State.
did not have nursing as a major.
Right. Right.
And so I ended up on the education route. And really, I started out being a science teacher. It was going to be
Wow.
science. So if I decided to cross into nursing, I could. But I was country bona fide. I had never had any experience with a teacher from Pakistan, a teacher
Right.
from Iran, a teacher from any part of the beautiful lands of Africa. And so, even though I could code switch between bona fide country and standard English,
English. Right.
I could not code switch with accents.
Right.
I have become better at that as
Right.
I have grown through my career,
Mhm.
but I could not understand anything most of my foreign professors said. I mean, I was to the point of frustration and struggling.
Right.
And almost every professor I had in the science department
Mm-hmm.
was brilliant.
Right.
But the barrier, the language barrier between us, even though we were both speaking English,
Right.
was problematic for me.
Right.
And so I ended up switching my primary major to English language arts, but
Okay.
still have enough secondary science classes that I could teach science. But it was just wasn't my major because I was just too frustrated, and it was my limited experience
Right.
that caused
Because,
that
yeah.
frustration.
Right.
I
Right,
think
right.
I have that problem now when I'm on the phone.
Yes,
Trying to,
Right.
yes. Trying to
yeah, I
understand
can't,
someone.
and it frustrates
It
Right, right, it
frustrates me too.
bad, like
Yes.
to the point where I'd be like, you know what? Oop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
May I have someone else?
Yeah.
That type of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to be, biased or
Mhm.
anything like that, but it is a real problem for
Problem.
me
It
being
is.
able to distinguish, especially if it's
Right.
a thick, heavy accent,
Heavy.
Mhm.
or even if it's rapid. Some of it is very rapid,
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
and so I can't keep up with the pace.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's how I ended up majoring in education. And at the time, you didn't have a lot of education jobs like you have now because
Right.
we had so many people majoring in education.
Right.
You had
Well,
people.
Alabama State was known for
Oh, it was
education.
Teachers.
known
Yeah, it
for
was.
it. You had
Mhm.
hundreds. At graduation, we had the largest list, the longest
Wow.
list of names to be called for graduation.
Wow.
Now it's the shortest list at
Wow.
Alabama State
Wow.
and at most colleges around the nation.
Wow.
It's the shortest list. Fewer and fewer people are going into teacher education, and that's unfortunate. But there are a lot of reasons why.
Wow. Right.
A lot of
Right.
reasons why.
I know back in the day we had recess and we did the May Day and all that kind of stuff like that. When you was in education, when you first got started, when you was in education, what is the difference when you first started up until the time that you had retired? What's the difference?
And can you incorporate too where your first job was? Your first
Right,
teaching
yeah,
job.
Mhm.
first teaching job.
So my first teaching job was in Central Florida. I
Okay.
was in an area that most people refer to as the Kennedy Space Center,
Oh,
which
okay.
is Titusville, Melbourne,
Right.
Cocoa Beach, Palm Bay.
Hmm.
And so I knew that when I started my first job or found my first place to live, I
Mhm.
wanted to be in Florida, mainly because of the sun, the
Right,
weather,
right.
the tourism, and you know what you're entertained with as a child, Mickey
Right.
Mouse.
Yeah,
I
right.
had been to Disney World. You know, it was pretty. It was the place to be.
Right, right.
Everything was always gorgeous.
Right.
I didn't know that much about the hurricanes before I got there, but that was where I wanted to go. Somewhere tropical. California was a little too far. It had
Right.
the same kind of vibe, but it was a little too far. I could get back home very quickly,
Mhm.
and I actually had family
Florida.
in Florida at
Okay.
the time. I had an uncle in Tampa, my
Mhm.
uncle Joe, and my uncle Alonzo. We call him Bubba.
Bubba.
Was in Orlando, so they were both there, and some first cousins, and so I thought it was a good place to be. I could get to family relatively quickly,
Right.
if I needed to, and I didn't realize that my husband, we got married right at the end of my senior year when I was graduating. He had been born there, and
Wow.
I never knew it. So he was
Wow.
going back to his birthplace. So
It's
it
okay.
ended up working out really well. But the big difference, I think, is that it seems like some of the fun and the enjoyment was sucked out of education because my experience was so much fun. Even when I came up to Lewis Adams in eighth grade to
Mhm.
their May Day,
Mayday.
we were
Yeah,
having
man.
fun. The
Mhm.
whole community was in the
Right.
school. You had the
Right.
old ladies coming in making quilts
Mhm.
and crafts. You had folks barbecuing.
Right.
I mean, it was just a community affair.
Right.
And so, even though we did some testing when I was in school, we took the California Achievement Test. I
Right.
don't know what you
We
guys
took it. We
took.
took it too.
That's what you took,
Yeah.
California
we kept-
Achievement.
Yep.
I don't remember.
You so young, Willie. You so young.
I don't
But
remember the California
then
achievement.
Yeah,
you
we had
took
that.
that one time a year.
Mhm.
People saw your results, but now we've gotten into this big thing of the politics of education, testing in education, and testing is such a big
It
business.
is.
I mean, the testing program probably costs the state anywhere between $30 and $50 million a year to buy
Ooh.
the test. So
God.
it's big business. So
Big
we have to
business.
make a big deal out of test scores so we can keep
That's right.
selling tests.
That's right.
And so with testing, everything took a turn. Okay, we don't need to go on all these field trips because we got to get ready for the test.
Right.
We don't need to have Mayday. That's taking away time from
That's
the
right.
curriculum, so
Right.
we can do well on the test.
That's
So
right.
we moved into this era of accountability and this era of testing, which it has its place, but we forget about the child.
That's right.
You know, the child has to be taught as the whole child. You know, there are a lot of places now where we don't do recess. You still have gym, but you don't just go out and have free play.
Right.
The mind has to have some play, some downtime, some relaxation.
Right.
So
agree.
I think
agree.
we've lost a lot of balance in education, trying to keep up with the accountability of education and the politics of education.
Wow.
Mhm,
Wow.
mhm.
Yeah, I remember being in education. When I left Tuskegee, I went to Tennessee,
Mhm.
and I taught 7th, 8th grade literature. And I just remember saying to myself, like, it's really not, like, I'm not being judged off if I'm a good teacher by if the kids like me or if I'm, helping them learn something. It's all about what their test score is going to be.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Like, nothing else matters.
That's right.
You could be doing everything else right, but if them kids' test scores ain't right, you ain't doing a good job.
Wow.
And I'm not gonna say I disagree with it because some people, I'm not a good test taker
Mhm.
at all. I can't take standardized tests that well. But the teacher is gonna be judged off, and I didn't agree with that. But I know I guess
That's
what it is.
when you have economies, for example, in Alabama, the
Mhm.
amount of money that we put into education, which is substantial, it's not enough, but it
Right.
is substantial. You're going to have to answer to somebody
Right.
for putting that kind of money. If you're going to pay a teacher, even though it's definitely not enough,
Mhm.
but if you're paying a teacher $60,000 a year,
Mhm.
and that teacher is earning benefits to get retirement for the
Yeah.
rest of her life, somebody is going to want to know, how is this person accountable? So
Right.
how are you going to measure that?
Right.
And so there's always some kind of measure, but I always think about doctors.
Okay.
So I don't see where anybody takes the number of patients that live, that have the proper weight, that don't have diseases, and put that up on an accountability chart to determine how well you're doing as a doctor.
Right. Right. Right.
You know, if you're giving the patient your best, you're giving the best advice, whether the patient takes it or not, whether God decides to allow that person to live or not, it doesn't directly come back to the doctor, unless it's some type of malpractice or
Right.
something like that. But for teachers and educators, we are held, to the
Mhm.
nail for everything. Nobody
Everything.
thinks about the external factors, the societal factors. And you also don't think about the developmental factors. You can take you as a baby, me as a baby, Buddha Rush as a baby.
Mhm.
We didn't do the same thing at the same
No,
time.
we didn't.
Buddha Rush probably started walking before we did, Willie. He was probably already going across the floor. You see what I mean? And Willie probably taught before,
That's right.
we
Yeah,
taught.
right, right.
We all do things at different times.
That's
But
right.
when we test and we teach, we're saying that every child is going to do the same thing
Mhm.
at the same time.
Time. That's right.
And that is not, now you talk about don't say nothing
It's
stupid. You think about that.
Yeah, you're
Is
right.
that even logical?
It's not logical. You're
We
right.
don't learn to drive at the same
Sure
time
don't.
in the same way. I
That's
mean,
right.
we just simply don't do things. You have some kids, they can see a dance one time.
And
They
that's
know
it.
how to do it.
That's right.
You can teach me that dance 20 times. I'm still
Mhm.
out of step.
Right.
You
Right.
see what I
right.
mean? And so when we put kids in this factory mode, we put education in this cycle that we're going to pump them in and they're going to come out just like a car on the assembly line.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Bad analogy.
Right.
Bad analogy.
I mean, you got a couple of comments. I just don't want to get lost in them.
Mhm.
They said so true. Politics has become part of everything in life in this day and age. That's one reason why we have so many issues now. You have someone, well, actually, my wife. The kids now have horrible anxiety, and as a
Mhm.
result of intense pressure put on them to perform well on standardized tests. Educators are expected to be perfect with the
Mhm.
least amount of support, resources, respect, and money. That's so true. Kids learn differently.
Mhm.
In healthcare, it is value. Dr. Maxwell said, well, Dr. Maxwell Stafford said, in healthcare, it is value-based care.
Mhm.
And then another
Exactly.
comment, it does not work like that.
Okay.
Exactly.
Just trying to read some of them so we won't get,
Right.
Mhm.
you
So
know,
I
lost.
got what you think about this? Here's something I had written down. And it said, but different between school and life is that school, you're taught a lesson and given a test. But in life, you're given a test and taught a lesson.
Mm.
True.
That's pretty powerful. That's pretty powerful. Well, this is what I say with life and with school. In everything. And this is something I was in a training actually with Mayor Omar Neal.
Mm-hmm.
Omar Neal, and he said in life, whether that be school, that be church, that be home, everything comes in two things:
Mm-hmm.
a lesson or a blessing.
That's right.
And so that's what I believe. I believe everything you're getting a blessing, you're getting a lesson. And sometimes a lesson is a blessing,
That's right.
or a blessing is a lesson.
Lesson. Absolutely.
And so everything we do, we learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
We have a takeaway, whether it's good or bad.
Right.
And so I kind of live my life by whatever it is, no
Mhm.
matter how good or how bad, you count it all for joy
Right.
because you're here to see it. You're
Mhm.
here to experience
Mhm.
it. And the alternative is that you're not here.
That's right.
Is that you're not here.
Yeah.
And so school should be a mixture of, lessons and blessings.
Mm-hmm.
And every day is a test.
It's a test.
It's a test
It's a
to, and Dr. Maxwell is on there. Every day is a test for me to see if I'm going to eat my piece of Conecuh sausage when I get up in the morning.
I know, right?
I went by it this morning. I had to just talk to myself, Brooks. You're not supposed to be eating that. Monday is supposed to be meatless Mondays. That's
Meatless
why I do
Monday.
on Mondays, meatless
Monday.
Mondays.
Okay,
I have to
okay.
talk to myself the whole thing. So it's everything is a test. A test for kids. Am I going to even cheat on the test?
Yep.
That's a test,
That's a
because now
test.
I can tell some stories about my friends. My friends and I, who we put a new word on cheating.
Right.
And I always tell teachers, be realistic,
Mm-hmm.
be practical.
Mhm.
Don't be hard on the kids than you were on yourselves.
Right. Right.
Always remember
Right.
what it was to be a child.
That's right.
Because I hear people, these kids,
Yeah.
what did you do?
Right.
Right.
I hear people, oh, these kids
Yeah.
didn't do anything on tests. I
Right.
said, let me see your ACT score.
Right.
So
Okay.
you telling me you got a 36
Right.
back in the day on the ACT? Oh, no, I got a 12. Well, then, why are you beating this kid
Sit up.
up? We
That's
are
right.
here to help the child.
That's right.
To give the child additional resources,
Mhm.
to put them onto resources, and to always remember. I said that when I became an administrator. I never want to forget my teaching lessons.
Right.
What it was to teach, because when I go in and talk to a teacher and judge a teacher, I'm not holding that teacher to this standard that I didn't hold myself,
Self to,
because
right.
she's or he's a person. And teachers aren't perfect. Teachers
Right.
are human. It's just like preachers.
Right.
Mhm.
Not perfect.
Right.
We're all humans. We're
That's right.
all humans.
Wow.
I wonder, and I'm trying to think how I can. I'm not trying to discredit the younger teachers now, but I'm wondering where did it shift? Because if you think about the older teachers, um, I say like Miss Sullins, Miss Johnson, some of those old. It's like we had a different respect. I guess it was kind of like, of course, we didn't want to let our parents down, but we didn't want to let them down as
Mhm.
well. I wonder where the disconnect came. Where,
Teachers.
yeah, like
Distraction.
it was. I don't know, and like I said, I don't want. I'm not talking about you young teachers.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
doing a good job. I'm not saying you're not, but you could just see the difference. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
even when I talk to my daughter, and she talk about some of the stuff I went through, but some of the stuff I'm like, your teacher said that.
Mm-hmm.
Your teacher did that. So I'm wondering,
Well, I
is it
think it's just a societal change. And it's not just teachers. It's in every
gotcha?
single profession. When you look at social media, for example. And I was looking at one on people who were in ROTC. My daughter's thinking about being an ROTC cadet in college. And so I said, let me look up some videos, on ROTC people. I was like, you can cuss on a video when you're representing the
Right.
military in ROTC? I didn't know that.
Right.
And the music that was in the background.
Right.
It's
Gotcha.
like, wow, this has really changed. And so I see it as a societal change. I actually refer to it as the Jerry Springer effect.
Right. Okay.
Um, I just think in the 80s when we started just letting it all hang out, so to speak,
Mhm.
and we would say whatever we wanted to
Mhm.
say, and it became permissible and acceptable.
Right.
This new freedom of speech, if you will. This
Mhm.
we're gonna dress like we want. We dress down. We talk down. We try to use the language of the child to relate more to the child.
Right.
I think that's when that line of demarcation and separation became blurred,
Mhm.
because when I think about my high school teachers, particularly
Mhm.
Mrs. J.C.
J.C.
Johnson, if
Johnson.
you didn't know Janice Carter
Johnson.
Johnson, you missed.
Yeah.
You missed.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You missed the teacher of teachers.
Right.
But her line of separation was so defined in
Wow.
her dress, in her walk, in her talk,
Right.
in her level of privacy. We never blurred those lines where we discussed her household,
Mhm.
nor did she discuss our household.
Right.
It was about the objective of the day.
Right.
You were going to learn to write, you were going to learn to diagram, you were going to learn the business of education. And so those lines were never blurred. But
Mhm.
I think when we started getting into the, again, Jerry Springer effect,
Fact. Right.
where we started crossing the lines, I'm in
Mhm.
your household, you're in mine,
Mhm.
those lines became blurred and we became more comfortable with each other. And when you become more comfortable with each other, you feel like you're on the same level.
Right.
You're
Right.
ending up in the
Right.
Mhm.
same
Right.
places. You're doing the same type of things. And a lot of it, though, was to try to bridge
Mhm.
relationships with kids. So,
Mhm.
for example, I got on social media
Mhm.
to reach families,
Okay.
and so that means now kids and families are looking
At your page.
at my
Right.
page, and
Right.
they're
Right.
seeing. I didn't know when my teacher went on vacation, and I
Mhm.
certainly didn't know what she did on
Right.
her vacation,
Right.
and I certainly wouldn't have known if she was in a bathing suit or if she had a glass of wine. You see
That's
what I
right.
mean?
Right.
Right.
And
Right.
so you had the teacher in this kind of royal family, kind of ethereal
Mhm.
realm,
Right.
where they were above
Mhm.
everybody else
That's
and
right.
Mhm.
held to this real high standard.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
now we kind of see that real teacher, that teachers are humans,
Yeah.
and what they do and what they partake in and what their real life is all about. But I think it also blurs lines,
Lies.
because the parent is saying, well, I was out with the teacher last night, or I was at
Mhm.
this affair with the teacher. Whereas
Mhm.
before, you didn't see the
Right.
teacher
Right.
in
Mhm.
that realm.
Right. Right.
Just
Right.
my
Right.
take on it.
I always get the when guys. I talk to a lot of guys that I grew up with, a lot of guys that have been successful and some haven't, and they always shoot this in all the time. My teacher said I wasn't going to amount to nothing, but this is my thing here. What people fail to realize that when those guys does that, girls or guys, they don't tell the whole story. When I say don't tell the whole story, I say my teacher said, "Well, you ain't gonna amount to nothing. You're gonna be in jail. You're gonna be dead, or you're gonna be in prison." It stopped right there. They didn't finish the sentence. She said, "If you continue
Mhm.
to do what you're doing, acting out, doing this and all that right there, then that's where you'll end up." They cut that part out. That sentence is
Mhm.
cut out of the equation.
Mhm.
Now they get this so-called, I don't know what it does to you, but you get you either you're gonna fail or you're gonna grow. You know what I mean? But they don't remember that other part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they bring that home to their parents and tell my parents, "They my teacher said she ain't gonna mind, I'm going to prison." And they just go with that, and they get mad at the teacher, and they'll be like, "Well, that teacher ain't good. This and that. She told my son this. She told my son that. But she told him that. But your son ain't tell you everything."
Mhm.
And that's what
Mhm.
they do. They pass on half of the information,
Yeah.
and it make the teacher look bad. You know what I mean? Really,
Yes.
really bad when they say that. But a lot of teachers have said that, but they don't finish the sentence out.
Yes. Yes.
It's a lot of that goes on.
Yes, that's very true. A few takes on that. A lot of times teachers will use sarcasm
Hmm.
and non-examples to try to motivate you.
Right?
The
Absolutely.
teachers there usually trying to motivate students to be their very best.
Right.
And so a lot of times they pull out whatever tools out of their toolkit they can to do that.
Hmm.
And so sometimes those kids don't even hear the whole message,
That's right.
because when you say that part, they shut
They shut
down.
down. They
They don't
shut
even
down.
hear the rest of you saying
Mhm.
what was said.
Hmm.
So that has been a large number of kids who've experienced that. Now you do, as in every profession,
Hmm.
you have some teachers who are in the profession, but They really don't even like kids.
Right.
And so you do have some people who should not be in the profession, but for the most part, teachers are hardworking
Mhm.
and they're there trying to use whatever tools to motivate you. And I
Mhm.
remember my favorite teacher saying, Miss J.C. Johnson, she would motivate you.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Are you going to be a lazy brain today? You know, she had
Right,
all
right,
these
right.
little
Yeah, yeah,
sayings
yeah, yeah,
she
yeah.
would do, but
Mhm.
they were used to try to motivate you
That's
or
right.
turn you around and get you on the right path.
Mhm.
But there was something that teachers used to say that used to bother me. And one is, what kind of job are you going to have? Are you going to be flipping burgers?
Mhm.
And I was like, did you say that to the McDonald's owner? Because yeah, I wished I had flipped a few burgers and owned a
Right.
few,
Right, right,
McDonald's
right.
or my own restaurant or what
Mhm.
have you. So you have to be careful how you crouch things and you present it to kids. Even I saw one the other day. It was in social media. The guy was laughing because he said, "My teacher said, 'What are you gonna be, a garbage man?'" He said, "She didn't tell me though that garbage men make more than teachers." You know, so
Wow.
so
Wow.
you have to really be
Yeah.
careful in what you are advising kids
Right.
to do. I want every kid to have a job on a business or whatever. But where you start, my message to kids is wherever you start, you go to the top.
Right.
You know, you go to the top. I saw a young man who had Down syndrome and he retired from McDonald's after 32 years. He always had his own health insurance, his life insurance, and he went from an entry level to a manager. You know,
Wow.
he didn't finish where he started.
Started. Right.
And so that's my thing. Wherever you break in,
Mhm.
you be the best that you
You
can
can be.
be
Right.
and you continue to
To grow.
elevate yourself.
Right.
Right.
You
Great. Great.
continue to elevate yourself.
It's
We
great.
got a lot of surprisingly, man, Buddha. We getting a lot of comments.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go back and
I
read
just got a
some
lot
of
of
them.
real watches over here. Just
I don't know what it's pertaining to because I didn't want to cut you off. But Darren Powell said yes. Every day there's a test. When we pass one, we move to the next test. If we're having the same test every day or every week, we must be failing that particular test. So we must pass that test to move to the next test. Denisha Streeter says it's people in general. We have to adjust with times. Our babies are super exposed. We have to keep up and adjust.
Hmm.
She also said, that's so true, Dr. Brooks. We understand boundaries. We knew why we were at school. We didn't challenge authority.
Hmm.
Creighton Pot, that's why I relate so well to the youth because I remember when we were children.
Mhm.
We call it transparency, but it has to have limitations. What else? Just trying to see. Dr. Maxwell said, in medicine, your reimbursement rates depend on the patient's performance on predetermined benchmark. Doesn't matter how well you try to doctor them. All that matters is the result. So
Okay.
not the same, but similar hoops
Similar.
to jump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Similar hoops to jump.
We have last comment, then we're gone.
Okay.
We have. I just don't want them to comment, and we don't.
Yeah.
Darrell Powell said we have had a cultural shift regarding the entire school system, and it is continuing to shift. Some teachers befriend their students, which clouds their thinking. There
Hmm.
should be a difference.
Right.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really just think that me as personal, I think that when it comes down to PTA meeting, I think that the teachers and the parents need to have a connection, a really connection, because it seemed like they don't have the connection like they used to way back in the day. Because it doesn't matter what your kid come home and tell you about what was happening at school. Your teacher can your parent can always go back and ask the teacher, not just take the kid word for whatever he says and goes and run back up to the school and do my kid blase blase because you don't know what your kid have done. You know what I mean? Your kid act different around you than they do at school with their friends at church. They act different. You know what I mean? They're different. You know what I mean? And my thing is, I think this is what I just think. When you're looking at PTA, what is it? Parent Teacher Association. Then they got the PTAS, which is the students. I think it should PTASC with the community because you got a lot of people that's don't have kids in school that would love to be involved in the community and the school system, even though they don't have, like they say, the dog in the fight. But even though they don't have kids in school, but they will really bring a great impact in the community. You know,
Hmm.
if you add that C to it, because they can't get them too involved in something they don't have no kids and nothing involved in. You know what I mean? So you put that C in it, the community in it. I think it'll make a difference. You know?
Oh, I agree. I agree. Now I'm going to tell you something, and it may be a little controversial. I may get some backlash from it. Couple of things. One, parental involvement has to be convenient.
Mhm.
You know, society has changed.
Right.
And so back when my grandmother was raising me, her schedule would allow her to go to PTA meeting if
Okay.
it was at 5 or 6 at night, if it was at 1 or 2 in the day,
Mhm.
because she either did some babysitting for somebody in the neighborhood, she cleaned some houses, or she worked in the garden where she sold vegetables or something around the house. So her
Gotcha.
schedule was conducive. But now if you got somebody working at Briggs and Stratton
Mhm.
and they're on the same shift that you have PTA meeting,
Right.
they get points
Okay.
minus.
That's right.
They can't just take off work every time
That's
we have a
right.
PTA meeting. So we have to try to make meetings. That's why I loved webinars during COVID. I love to have a webinar several times a day.
Mhm.
Open door policy. Come see me.
Wow.
Because parents are doing the best they can
They are.
in some very difficult times
Times.
when the mom and the dad and even the children need to work in the
Right.
house.
That's right.
And so that thing of I'm going to have it when it's convenient for me
Mhm.
is not necessarily good for parents.
That's right.
The other thing I have found, and I said it to my teachers, I said it to my principals, and I still say it, is that everybody who is an educator doesn't welcome parental involvement.
Right.
You know,
Mhm.
sometimes we don't want to listen to what the parents are saying, or we
Mhm.
don't want to hear the complaints. But those complaints help us
Right.
get better.
Right.
They actually grow us. They
Mhm.
actually grow us.
Right.
And so it makes you look at something that you may. Now, I think that complaints should be done in a respectable
Right.
fashion and through the
Absolutely.
proper
Right.
venues.
Absolutely.
But they do help you grow, and they help you look at things that you may not have looked at before. So I think we've got to find better ways to welcome parents,
Mhm.
to make things more convenient for parents. And one of the things that I think we were too quick to move away from, and I'm glad to see you guys doing that, is things like this podcast.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Because when we have a meeting or we have something, we have all this technology.
Technology.
We have one thing I can say about Macon County is that we have a lot of technology.
Technology.
Now, there are
Right.
other ways to do things. Of course, we want to do face to face and those kinds of
Mhm.
things. But for the parents and the people who need it, somebody may want to go back and watch this podcast later today.
Right.
Mhm.
It's out there because they
Mhm.
couldn't do it during the
At the same
time
Time
you
that
were
we
time.
doing
showing
it.
it.
Right.
You see
Right.
what I mean?
That's
Yeah,
So
right.
we
we've
get a
got
lot
to
of that.
use these tools to be able to reach parents. The other thing I like, and a lot of people frowned about it, but you know, it doesn't matter. And I don't care if your couch is tattered or it's brand new. I'm going to sit on your couch when I come to your house
Right.
if you're
Mhm.
one of my parents.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
So going to home visits,
Okay.
visiting people, stopping by.
Right.
You
Right.
know, we had some
I'm sure
parents
they
that
don't do
say,
that no more.
it's really frowned upon. Your attorney for schools and school
Mhm.
systems and
Right.
teachers will tell you not to put yourself in that situation.
Gotcha.
And I think it's really sad because we don't build those relationships.
Relationship.
And
Right.
perhaps if I had been, you know, in Compton or somewhere like that, I might not feel comfortable
Right.
doing it. But being here at home,
At home.
I
Mhm.
feel like I kind of know everybody.
Right.
And
Mhm.
so if there's a situation, I'm going to stop by and talk about it. I can't tell you how many times when I was in the school system, I remember a parent, he was so upset about something. And he called me on the phone, and I knew right away because it wasn't Miss Brooks, it wasn't Dr. Brooks, it was Jackie. Are you at your house?
Yeah.
I need to come by your yard.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I was like, oh, Lord, what has happened now? And sure enough, he pulled up and he got a car and he was hot.
Right.
But we were able to talk
Talk.
through it,
Okay,
you know,
got it.
and come to a resolution.
Solution.
And so those are the kinds of things that you can do when you have a close knit and a small knit community. But I think they can be done in some larger communities if we really look at what all we have in terms of the tools that are at our fingertips.
Right.
So if you had to pinpoint just your opinion, the biggest issue in the educational system right now, what would you say it is? I know it's probably a lot, but just one one that just
I think
stands
the
out.
thing that troubles me the most right now about education as a whole is the politicizing of education.
Gotcha.
Education is the almost a central political factor that is dealt with nationally, regionally, state level, and local level. It is such a political um, institution right now. And people lean it to the left, they lean it to
Mhm.
the right, in the
Mhm.
middle, and the child, followed by the teacher, doesn't become the voice and the central focus of the
Mhm.
process.
Right. Got you.
Yeah. And it was tough during COVID. And I can say specifically during COVID, we were pulled politically in so many directions.
Right.
Keep schools open. Don't keep schools
Mhm.
open. Wear a
Mhm.
mask. Don't say mask. The CDC and your medical professionals are giving you advice, but don't follow that advice. Don't ask for this.
Right.
Don't violate
Mhm.
this right. And it was so antithetical to everything we had ever been taught, where we were always checking:
Mhm.
has the child had the Tdap shot? Has the child had this? Is
Mhm.
this in line? We were always that agency, that followed that.
Right.
But all of a sudden, we had all these political slants, and they've just gotten more and more defined, every
Wow.
single year. Now it's libraries.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Libraries are supposed to be a haven, of
Mhm.
books for, kids and people to pursue their interests and have these different voices. But now it's, this is a divisive book. This is that kind of book.
Mhm.
And so, I've wondered, then we shouldn't be looking at anything politically. We shouldn't be saying the black kids outperform the Hispanic kids on the test. If we're going to talk about divisive concepts and all these political things and what we should or should not be doing, we just need to find a way to remove all of that from education,
Gotcha.
because teachers are so entwined in that political process and principles. And you've got new acts from the state, the
Mhm.
Literacy Act, the Numeracy Act, all
Right.
these
Mhm.
kinds of things, that you have people shunning the profession, getting out of the profession. And we want kids to do well.
Right.
That's not what we're saying that we're against that. We want kids to do well, but we've got to find reasonable, practical ways to make these achievements. We
Wow.
really do. And then when it comes to testing, I
Mhm.
don't know if you all have seen a standardized test lately.
No, I haven't
No,
lately.
no.
Well, the newest thing is that when a kid has a multiple choice question,
Mhm.
Mhm.
they have to do a multiple select answer, meaning they don't select A, B,
Yeah.
C, D,
D,
or E.
E.
Mhm.
They might select A, B, and D. There are three answers to the question. And so
Wow.
when people say, oh, the kids didn't do well on the test,
Ooh.
have you looked at the test? Have you seen the expectations for
Mhm.
what kids do today? And I'm not saying the expectations shouldn't be there, but we've got to educate ourselves
Mhm.
on what the standards and the expectations are for our children. And kids are not asked what,
Mhm.
who. Those are the questions we were asked when we
Right.
were growing up. What and who.
Right.
And you can read the story and you can say what?
Yeah.
Chicken Little.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's who.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Of the sky. That's what we're talking about.
Right.
But now is, which of the following opinions expressed about Chicken Little is what the author intended to do in the passage?
Hmm.
So now you've got a totally different
Right.
construct of
Right.
critical thinking,
Mhm.
that if this child isn't in a household or in a nurturing environment in school where they're having discussions
Mhm.
and critical thinking,
Mhm.
Mhm.
the only thing they can do is tell you who and what.
Right.
But that's not what the testing is about.
Right.
It's critical thinking,
Thinking.
higher level thinking. And
Wow.
that's where
Someone
we've
just
got to
said that.
move our kids and
Wow.
community to.
Into that one. Yeah.
hmm
Someone just said they might have it partially correct. They are asked to think critically.
Yes, they're asked to think critically.
Bonita Wilford, she said that's so true, Dr. Brooks.
Yes.
That's one person
So,
that said something.
uh,
Big shout
can
out
you
for Tina.
speak on what is it, the literacy?
The Literacy Act.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
I'm gonna break it down to the way I've interpreted.
Okay.
Okay.
So back when we were in school, we took a test,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
but you know, you find out where you were. You may be in the 8th grade, but you're on a 5th grade level, 3rd grade level, but you're passing your classes, so you still were able to pass. From what I understood with this literacy act is that you have to meet proficiency. What's the word?
Proficiency.
Yeah, I'm gonna get tongue tied and out of, but y'all know what I'm trying
Yeah,
to
we
say.
know exactly what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
she helped me out right there.
Efficiency.
So you have to meet that before you're able to pass.
Mhm.
So it's not, you can make A's and B's all through the school year, but when it comes time to take this test and you don't meet proficiency, is that true or?
Yeah, you bring up another whole area of research, and that's the purpose of the classroom grade,
Mhm.
Mhm.
the accuracy of the classroom grade, and grade inflation. So if your cold class over here is making A's, but then when we take our state test,
Mhm.
we're not meeting proficiency. We've got a discrepancy here, and we need to see why that discrepancy exists. And so a lot of times what that means is that at the teacher level, the classroom level, the school level, we're doing the who's and the what's.
Okay.
Because kids can get that right all day
Mhm.
long.
Mhm.
So a lot of people say, "Oh, the kids can't read. They don't know their words." Yeah, they know their words. They can call them out all day long.
Right.
But when you start asking those higher order thinking questions about those words that have been put together and make a paragraph, that's a different construct.
Right.
So when we think about grades, yes, you could have all A's over here, because if that lesson and that classroom assessment doesn't mirror that state assessment, you're talking about apples and oranges.
Right.
You're talking about apples and oranges. If you're teaching things in your class that are not the objectives that are tested, then you're not likely to do well
Right.
on the test. And so you have the classroom measurements coming from the teacher, the school, and the district. And then you have the proficiency measures coming from the state.
Right.
And so those have to be aligned. And until they're aligned and they're all talking the same language, then we're going to have those types of deficits. Now, here's the thing. So the second graders now take an assessment, like a readiness assessment. And so then when you get to the third grade, you take your first state reading proficiency.
Okay.
And by that end of that third grade year, you are supposed to be reading on grade level.
Wow.
And again, what the community needs to understand is that reading on grade level does not mean that you sit here and you read this passage.
Right.
It means that you can answer those multiple select questions. You can analyze that reading. You can tell and interpret what the author's opinion is. You
Gotcha.
can give an evaluative statement about what you have read.
Wow.
Now, that's what it means to read on grade level, that you can do all of those
All of that.
things.
Wow.
Okay? So it's like having a Sunday school lesson at church,
Right.
that you read through all the scriptures.
Yeah.
But now somebody's got to come back and interpret the
Right,
scriptures.
right,
Tell what Jesus
right.
was trying to say.
Yeah.
Answer why did he say
Gotcha.
that?
Right,
Not
right.
just the who, what, when, and where. And so for me growing up, Sunday school and church did a lot of that for
Right.
us. We got into the analysis of
Right.
what we were reading.
Right.
And so we've got to get into the analysis of it. Reading the books to kids is good at night. Having them hear stories is good at night. But they have to go to a higher level of discussing the why, the how, your thoughts, your opinions. Evaluate this. What do you think that person meant? And being able to come up with an accurate interpretation of that. What was the author's purpose for writing this? Explain that back to me. Retell the story in your own words. Now, of course, they're always outs. So if a kid takes the test and is not doing well, you put them on what you call an improvement plan. It's called a SHRIP. I would have to go back and look it up to tell you what the SHRIP stands for. Somebody on there, you said Bettina Williford was on there.
Yes, she
can write to y'all what SHRIP stands for. I've forgotten.
Let us
but
know,
anyway, it
Bettina.
was an improvement. It's an improvement plan that you put the child on.
Okay.
Of course, there are some consolations. So if the child is already receiving special services, if the child goes to summer school and makes improvements, there are some ways that the child can go ahead and move on.
Okay.
Because research clearly says, even though some people will not believe the research, we saw during COVID that people don't believe research. Research clearly says that a child who is retained is likely never to catch up. Intervention is much better than retention.
Wow.
Most kids that you know who were retained, what did they do? I didn't say all, but most, what did they do? Did they get any smarter? Did they improve? Did they graduate? Usually most kids who are retained end up dropping out of school anyway.
Kind of like an embarrassment.
So, yes. So intervention is always a better way. A summer school, an intervention, a personal tutor, those kinds of things. Now, of course, we all know that if we really wanted kids to improve, the investment would be high-dose tutoring and one-on-one.
Right.
You give them a one-on-one.
Right.
We know the answer, but we're not going to put that much money into education to do that.
Wow.
That was kind of going to be one of my next questions, too. Like, what's out there for, so say if you have a parent, you have a child that's not on the level, but you have a parent also that wants to help, but they're not on that level. Is there anything out there that you know of that may assist? I mean, of course, you know, after school programs. I don't even know, do they still have after school programs? But is it something that maybe someone listening and know, hey, okay, I want to help my child get here, but I'm not as fluent myself.
Right.
So,
Right.
what
A couple of
options do a
things.
parent have?
Couple of things. One, for parents, and again, scheduling is everything around work, but we have some pretty awesome community college programs
Okay.
around
Okay.
us. We are
Okay.
fortunate to have both Trenum
Trenum.
Okay.
State and then we have Southern Union.
Trenum State, Southern
And
Union.
both
Yes.
of those have adult ed programs.
Okay.
And with adult ed programs, they also do some ready to work programs. Those programs help shore up the skills of adults.
Got you.
Mhm.
So if there are adults who need help in reading and in math and those kinds of things, of course, there are some resources there. I always encourage the community, our churches, and I was saying this at my church. I said, yeah, it's nice for us to get these new chairs. We do need them. We do need them. Don't get me wrong, because those benches were the benches I've been sitting on since 1968. But we've got to get outside of our walls.
Right.
Right.
You're right.
We've got to get
You're right.
outside of our walls. And so, back in the day, we had the follow through programs and the community programs where we had folks, social workers, and
Right.
people who went into houses to help
Right.
grandparents learn how to read and
Mhm.
have skills.
Mhm.
And so that kind of community thing we never have enough of.
Right.
But as an entity that's currently working with adults, of course, Trenum and Southern Union. But even at school, there are programs that are held a lot of times. Again, we've got to find a way to hold them at the right time
Time
so
right.
that parents can be able to come to them. One of the programs that I really liked, and my coworker and professional friend who ran that program recently passed away, Miss Terry Barton Hosey,
Mhm.
but it was called the Hippie Program.
Hippie, yeah.
Homeschool instruction for parents of preschool youngsters.
Oh,
And
okay.
that was just remarkable. I don't know what the status of it is now and if it's going to continue. I pray it does. But she and her homeschool educators, who were other parents,
Mhm.
Mhm.
they went in and worked with the parent first to teach
Wow.
the
Amazing.
parent how to teach the lesson. And
Wow.
then the
Right.
parent taught the lesson
To
to the
the
kids.
kid.
And every family that signed up for Hippie ended up with just a library at home full of books and
Wow.
resources and all kinds of
Wow.
wonderful things. And so, like I said, I'm not sure what's going to happen with the program, but if it's kept in the school system, that's wonderful. But if it's not, I hope that another agency, will pick it
Pick it
up.
up.
And that might be something we could talk to Judge Biggers or the Macon County Children's Policy Council about, because teaching the parents to teach the children is really, really important. But over and beyond that, I would say the Ben Carson effect. Ben always says he never knew his mom didn't know how to read,
Wow.
but she always had his table and his chair there for his designated reading time. Ben,
Mm.
it's time to come in here and read. And
Mhm.
she would sit there. Oh, well, tell me more about that, Ben.
Yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
what happened? Why did that happen, Ben? She knew to ask the questions,
Questions,
She knew the
right.
even
right
though she
question.
wasn't a good
Mhm.
reader
Mhm.
herself.
Right.
So sometimes just making the time and providing the resources for
Right.
kids, and they can help elevate their parents.
Absolutely.
Mama, let me read this to you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I'm going to tell it back to you, son. You tell it back to me. And it may not be that she's the best reader, he's
Right.
the best reader, but you can still put your focus on that. You think
Right.
about during slavery, everybody didn't know how to read, but they got in a group,
Mhm.
they made a way out of no way. And some of those lessons we need to go back to.
Me too.
We
Right.
need to go
You're
back
right.
to. And
You're
they didn't have the resources we
right.
have.
Absolutely.
They really didn't.
And someone said, "Call." Well, Denisha said, "Call on the kids for tutoring. It's great community service
Mhm.
for them. Most
Mhm.
kids learn well from their peers."
Absolutely. And I don't want to get in the politics of endorsing, but I've seen some of our young people come and give back who have started, tutorial programs where
Okay.
they're using college students
Right.
and they're putting tutoring in the high schools and in the,
Wow. Yeah.
and so when I see young people doing those
Right.
kinds of things, that is just really incredible and motivational. And so more of us, we can do more.
That's right.
And
We can do
especially
more.
our young people, high school students can
Mhm.
go and help little students,
Mhm.
or help a neighbor,
Mhm.
help a younger person read. So there are just all kinds of things we can do. So that pull yourself up by your bootstraps,
Mhm.
that's still a real thing.
Okay. Do they have any kind of program? I know, with the kids that, well, therefore they can go to nurses' home and stuff like that and visit the elder, just stuff like that. Because you got to think about a lot of people that's in nursing home and bed bound and stuff like. They don't have anyone that can come over, can talk to them and stuff like that. Is there any kind of program that they do have that young folks can go and visit the elder, in different places? Because we got a nursing home here. You know what I mean?
Yes,
And
yes, Yeah.
even some people that's not at a nursing home, but they're at home. And is this any kind of program that they can just go and visit those people? You know what I mean, young, because they be loving to hear from younger people and people that just. A lot of people don't get visitors either.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I don't know that it's a formal program, but I will tell you that several of the principals have done reading initiatives
Okay.
where some young people do go and visit, especially during Read Across Macon
County,
County and
right,
Read
right.
Across America Day, where they do go and read to senior citizens and elderly people if they're permitted to have visitors. Education also has a lot of liability now. So you have to be really
Oh,
careful in
okay, okay.
what you expose children to in terms of health and safety.
Right.
But some of that is done probably on a more limited basis
Okay.
now. But we do have health sciences in the school system, and I keep up with some of that being a parent. And so health sciences is one of the learning pathways that's in the school for kids who want to become a nurse or go into healthcare. And so a lot of those kids who are in the health sciences pathway do go into some of these scenarios where they can work with some of the elderly in the senior care programs and in the nursing homes.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
so
great.
that's a pretty and the career pathways, that's a pretty incredible thing. And that's been a different shift in thinking because it was a negative connotation when I was in school if you were going to get on the vocational ed bus
Right.
and come to town and go to the vocational ed
right.
center. Little did I know those guys who were learning to lay bricks
Right.
would be folks like Mr. Jenkins with Jenkins Brick Company,
Right.
one of the richest Alabamians there was.
Right.
And that skill set is highly sought after. You look for a brick masoner,
Yeah.
you're going to pay some good money.
Right.
But we were, laughing at those
they did,
skills,
yeah.
those skill sets, and not really focusing on the entrepreneurship
Right.
that should have gone along with
Right.
those skill sets so those folks could own their own companies.
Right.
And so I think we have made great gains in terms of promoting vocational ed, but I still think we could promote it a whole lot more because if kids can get in those pathways, even if they try more than one to kind of see where their interests are, perfect their skills, you wouldn't have folks going to school majoring in one thing and then that's not what I really
want. You're
what
right.
I really want to do.
It's a lot of that. It's a lot of that.
A lot of that.
A lot of that.
I think the skills pathways is a really big thing. Kids can get credentials, kids can start working, kids can get dual enrollment credits, kids can go to technical school and graduate with an associate's degree
Right.
and a high school diploma at the same time.
Wow.
So there are just some incredible pathways, but as parents and community and educators, we've got to really educate folks on the available options out there and make sure our kids take advantage of them.
I think that's a thing that's lacking too, not knowing.
I know it. Yeah.
Like I don't know if it's a place they supposed to go or if it's either an umbrella that would have like maybe if it was a website. Hey, if you want to know what's available for parents, kids, go here. I don't know. And then another
I
question.
think this is your key though. Shows like this because that information is on the State Department's website, is on every school system's website, but we don't website anymore.
Right.
We don't website and we don't read as much as we should. So unless we see it on a billboard, and I was telling somebody the other day, I wish we could use billboards for information like we do during election season. During election season, everybody got a billboard. But right now to say, hey, this is open, this is available. We don't have any billboards or any spots on WSFA or this is a good thing. This podcast, the radio shows, because again, back in the day, WBIL it kept us abreast of everything. And not only did we have WBIL, we had WRM TV6. We had a
Russo.
TV channel. So you knew everything that was coming on, and so we've got to find better ways to get information out because traditional ways don't always work. And so when people hear something 10 or 15 or 20 times, then it starts to spread. We have to find more ways to make this informational type stuff go viral because it doesn't get our attention like the 50-part series.
Right.
Now the 50-part series, I forgot her name. I didn't watch it. Was it Tessa? What? I can't remember the girl's name. But anyway, Who Did I Marry?
Okay.
That went viral. We didn't have to call anybody. We didn't have to tell them to look on the website. People spread the information.
Wow.
So we've got to get in the habit of spreading good news.
That's right.
We spread bad news,
Right.
but we've got to get in the habit of spreading good news in our community. Sharing, letting other people know about this. Because, for example, if you get in Trenton or Southern Union right now and you keep a B average, you can really go to school free.
Whoa, it's like a scholarship?
Yeah, it's like a scholarship because, like I said, you have gotten your associate's degree before you finish high school.
Right.
And then we have an articulation agreement with several four-year universities so that if you get that 2-year from Southern Union or Trenton, you'll go on to a 4-year. So, for example, let's say you want to be a nurse.
Okay.
All right, and you get your associate's degree in nursing at Southern Union.
Okay.
Okay, then you apply to Auburn. If you have the right GPA, Auburn has an articulation agreement. You're going to go to Auburn.
Wow.
You're going to bypass ACT,
Right.
SAT,
All
and
that.
all of that because you already have your associate's degree. It's
Wow.
called the STARS program. But those are the kinds of things we need to be sharing in the community, sharing at church, sharing at the food drive, wherever we can share it. And so this is commendable, guys, because this gets information out to the public.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people are coming.
Right.
I guess,
And you know, that's like winning the lottery.
Right.
If you don't have to pay for college, you don't have to get a student loan.
tell me about it. They gonna call.
Oh, by the way, let me put this commercial in here. If you have worked in public service, or you have taught school, and you have not applied for public service loan forgiveness, you need to do so today because the deadline is in April. And you're going to have to go and look it up for yourself to see the exact deadline. You're going to have to put a little work in this. Go to the Student Aid Gov website. And get your public service loan forgiven so you don't have to pay that back. That can put, for some people, $600 to $1,500 a month back in their household budget. And so if you have not applied, please apply for that.
What's the requirements? You know the
Well, you have to have worked for a qualifying public service agency. And so most of your schools and colleges qualify, but they also have some that deal with healthcare professionals, firefighters, and other people. You just need to go on the website and get the accurate information so you can apply for student loan forgiveness because it's a life changer. Hold on, let me look it up.
They say great interview, Doc. There's a lot of information.
We're trying to give y'all some gems
We
because I'm going to look.
We got everything. We got everything we need at our fingertips with these telephones. I just can't see my phone.
Teach them that, Doc. She said, teach them that, Doc.
I can't see my phone without my
glasses.
reading glasses. So hold on.
They got a couple comments. They're saying great interview.
Yeah, I got a couple.
Okay, it is studentaid.gov.
Student aid. Plug it in.
And then when you get on there, you look for loan forgiveness.
Student
aid.
AID or ADE?
AID.gov. And so, yeah, look on there and look for that. That can give you a pathway to freedom if you have been shackled, by some of your student loans.
Okay. That's great. That's good to know. That's something really, really good to know.
Yeah,
There's a lot of people watching, but they're not making a comment.
Yeah. Let me ask: is it anything that you know of that's out there that asks the students how they feel? Like, is it a program? Because I always think like, we always answer for people. Like we do stuff, we give but sometimes we never reach in to see. Well, let's just see how the students feel about it. So
exactly. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Is there any programs out there that actually go in and that you know of that may sit down with the students and say, "Hey, what can make this experience better? What can, you get what I'm trying to say?"
Well, two things I can think of, and one is something I did when I was superintendent. But before I get back to that, I'm going to talk about Judge Biggers. I'm gonna have to pull that up too.
Put your glasses back on.
I'm gonna have to put my glasses back on. Judge Biggers is having a town hall meeting. Now I try to share everything on my Facebook page that I can, so I'm gonna have to pull up my Facebook.
Someone said bring the kids on the podcast. Hey, that's a good idea.
Yeah, bring the kids on the podcast. Judge Biggers has a
Always full of knowledge.
a town hall meeting, and she has it every year. And at her town hall meeting, she brings the kids in, and the
Okay.
kids give the whole community all of the input that they would like to about. I'm trying to see if I get there. It is about what they like, what they want changed, what
Mm.
they want to see
Mm-hmm.
improved in the community, and
Right.
all. And we always capture all of that and share it with
Hmm.
the mayors in the different communities,
Right.
all of that kind of thing. And so that is how we decided, that the kids were adamant about track and field
Track and
to
field.
run
Right.
on, those kinds of things. That information came from the kids.
Wow.
And I can
Okay,
give you
good.
one specific one. Miss Emma James, the school nutrition director. So I had what we called a superintendent's advisory council.
Hmm.
And so I had X number of students that the students voted for
Hmm.
at each school from third grade to 12th grade. And they met with me every month. And we had lunch,
Hmm.
and then they could get to tell me anything they wanted, no strings,
That's dope.
no holds
Right.
barred.
Right.
And
Dope.
so one of the things they got on one day in the office was, Dr. Brooks, we just want to know why we don't have the square pizza that we've always had in the cafeteria,
Them
and
used to be some
y'all,
good
Man,
things.
yeah,
what
Oh
is the
my
and
best
y'all went
God.
and got
pizza?
this round pizza that we don't like. And so I said, you know what, guys, y'all hold on, because I'm the superintendent, but we have a school nutrition director.
Hmm.
I'm gonna go across the hall and get her.
Right.
And so after that day, from then on, if
They had
y'all
the
go to
square
school
pizza.
on pizza day,
The square pizza.
the square pizza
God,
is
Square
back.
we
pizza
used to
was
love them.
some
Yes.
I don't
serious
know.
boy.
And you know,
Yes.
one time that Calhoun Food had started selling them.
Selling them.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
man.
remember that. I
Yeah,
remember that.
yeah.
And so that was one thing that came from the kids. The other thing that came from the kids, and I couldn't quite give them what they wanted, but other school systems are trying to catch up now. But
Mm.
ever since 20, Tracy Jackson needs to give me the exact date, but I think it was since 2017,
Mhm.
all of our new school buses have been air conditioned. Because
Wow.
that came from the kids.
Right.
They're like, it is too hot. We're
Right.
riding all the way from Tuskegee to Hurtsboro
Right, right.
in 110-degree weather. And so we would like to get air conditioning on our
Conditions.
school bus. Now, what they told me they wanted a flat screen
Oh, Lord.
TV up at the front.
Mhm.
They wanted, I can't remember what size rims. They wanted
The
They
rims.
want the rims on the bus.
They wanted a flat screen TV.
Bus go
They
round
wanted
and round.
music. They wanted Wi-Fi. They named
Mhm.
everything they wanted on the school bus. They didn't get the TVs, but they got Wi-Fi on the school buses.
Wi-Fi. Okay.
They got the air condition
Got air
on the
condi-
school
okay.
buses, and some other things on the school buses that they wanted. But that came from the kids. So we tried to give the kids as much as they wanted. They wanted us to start, even though I canceled, they wanted us to start a wrestling team at
Wrestling
one of
team,
the
okay.
schools. We did until somebody got a little injury,
Right. Okay.
and
I
we
got you.
stopped it.
Stop that.
But we were able to do a lot more with sports because of what the kids
Kids wanted.
to participate in. Even in the community, the kids wanted a tennis team, and so we had a guy who volunteered, to do
Mhm.
to
Right.
do tennis. The thing is,
King.
when we
The king.
start something, we've got to have somebody to pick it up,
Right,
because
right, right.
then when he passed
Right,
away,
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
King.
it
Long
wasn't
time.
continued.
Mhm.
And so those are the kinds of things we have to do, is continue the legacy and keep the forward progression moving,
Mhm.
and not let things die out because we lose a person in the
Right.
community.
That's
And
right.
so that's been a big experience in the community that I've noticed. If someone passes away
Wow.
or moves away, that thing or that work that
Dies down.
person was doing doesn't continue.
Right.
And we have to find a way to overcome that.
Right.
We have to find a way to
Let me
overcome
let me
that.
ask you this. Let me jump to another subject. So at my daughter's school, they can't have their cell phones. They have to put them in a pouch, lock them up.
Oh yeah. Okay.
What's your intake? Do you feel that the children should? I know it's a touchy subject because some people,
Right.
I just like to get people opinion.
Right. Right.
Um, some would say they don't need a cell phone. I'm gonna say my child needs the cell phone. But what's your opinion?
I'm laughing so much. I'm laughing so much. And the reason I'm laughing is because I have two totally different personalities regarding this.
Right.
So now, if I were to have on my superintendent educator hat,
Okay.
of course we
Yeah.
do not need phones in the school. Absolutely, we do not.
But now when you go to your mom hat,
But now when I go to my mom hat and I get a message that something has happened, they are on lockdown,
Right.
there's an intruder in the building,
Right.
it's all about my baby.
That's right.
Right.
Absolutely.
I need to touch her. I need to see her. I
Mhm.
need to feel her. I need to know she's okay.
Okay. That's right.
So that's a really difficult subject in today's times.
Mhm.
So I think it has to be a way to have almost a balance of the two. Now that's easier said than
done,
done
right?
because it's hard to get kids to follow two sets of rules
Right.
in one day. You know, I like you can't have access to, you have your phone in the morning before class starts.
Mhm.
And then you either take your phone up, for the period or
Mhm.
something. But
Mhm.
after that period's over, you can check your messages or you can
Mhm.
send a message.
Mhm.
The problem is that I want a message about safety or security. But
Mhm.
when you send a message to say, the teacher said I didn't do my homework last night and gave me a 52, and the mama can't comes up there and says, or the dad or the uncle or the
Mhm.
cousin, well, we coming up there by a whole tribe and we
Right.
gonna
Right.
turn the school out.
Right. Right.
See, you messing
Mm.
it up for everybody
Right.
else.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
So that is the thing with the cell phone is the distractive factor,
Yeah,
you know,
someone
or
just
the
said
kid
that.
not wanting to follow the rule of putting the cell phone up
Right.
when you need to put it
Up.
up. So it's like you can't have both worlds. But if we
Mhm.
could find a way where people would really follow
Mhm.
the blended rule, where you could get it at various times to check messages and to
Mhm.
check in
Mhm.
during the
Mhm.
day, that would be my preferred method.
Method.
Right.
Right.
So I'll tell you a specific example. I think it might have been this past Friday. We got a call on the school. I don't know what it's called now. School Reach, School Cast, but you know the messenger
Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm.
that said there was no after school on Friday.
Okay.
Well, if there's no after school on Friday and I'm at work, other parents are at work, and you got other kids that need to be tended to, you're
Right.
going to have to make some
Right.
shifts. And
Mhm.
so I'm like, okay, I need to let my daughter know to pick up her brother and her
Mhm.
cousins from the
Mhm.
elementary school.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But her phone is in the pouch. So I can't let her know because her phone is in the pouch. So what am I going to do? You know, that type
Right.
of thing. So then I have to bombard wonderful secretary, Lord, she's so good. I just love her to death. I have to call Miss Phillips. Can you please get my baby a message to let her know
Right.
to pick
Right.
up her brother and her cousins, from the elementary school? Because I got, look, Miss Williford texting me from Tuskegee
Mhm.
Public. Who's picking up Nixon? I
Right.
got Mr. Clausell texting me from Carver. Who's picking up April and Adrian? April and Aiden. And I'm trying to get it figured out. So, parents have a lot going on.
Let me check
And
my phone
so
real quick.
you have to have that parent perspective really in order to move forward. So being
Mhm.
blessed to have a parent perspective, it's a
Yeah, and
really good
that's
thing.
that's the thing for me because like going a little too deep in, but I got a call. Well, not a call, but a situation from my daughter where the teacher wouldn't let her use the restroom.
Mm-hmm.
Now, females are different from guys. You guys, ladies, have things going on that males don't have going on. So that's kind of like the because for me, I would think, man, there's no way a teacher's not letting you use the restroom. You know, I wouldn't think, but having that said, because I'm the type of parent that if my daughter's saying something, I'm gonna believe her. I'm gonna look into it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have the phone. And, hey, Dad, I'm right here. He won't let me use the restroom. Now maybe I could speak to him, which that's not the right thing to do, but it kind of helps. So I'm kind of I get it. The thing like someone said, distraction. Yeah, because you're gonna have that kid that when you're teaching, he's trying to look on YouTube or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Facebook or whatever. But I know it's just a touchy subject, but I don't
Yeah.
see the big deal of
And again, it's societal changes.
right.
When I was in school at South Macon, do you know how many phones we had in the whole school? We had one black telephone in the front office on the front office counter with the dial. That was it. There
Right.
was no such thing as going to the office saying you left your homework at home, you left your book bag at home.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Sammy just wasn't gonna have that, and your
Mhm.
parents weren't gonna have it because they weren't coming that far to bring you anything.
Mhm.
Okay. But again, societal changes now. And I think for me, it's more about the danger and the concern of not knowing where my child is or
Right.
what's going on at any time because the world has changed, since Columbine
Mm-hmm.
and, those shootings and killings.
Right.
People are constantly worried about their child, and I understand that fear. It's just being able to strike a balance between being distracted and being safe. And
Mm-hmm.
and then you think about this. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but when we had the little boy down near Enterprise, Alabama,
Okay.
and you remember the bus driver was driving them home,
Hmm.
and he has to back up. Bus driver Pollard, he had to back up in this guy's yard and turn the bus around.
Okay.
Well, the guy got on the bus with a gun. You remember that? And he actually
Wow.
took the little boy down in a bunker because we were all on the news. FBI came
Wow.
in, everything. Some people, I'm sure, remember that. But
Okay.
anyway, he had the little boy down in the bunker. And the bus driver was actually shot and killed. The only
Wow.
way the police knew what was going on was that you had a senior high schooler.
Right.
I think he might have been a senior, but he was a high schooler in the back of the bus who took his phone out and said, 911.
Wow.
My bus driver has been shot. A
God.
student on my bus, looked like his name was Ethan. A student on my bus
Hmm.
has been uh, taken hostage. And
Wow.
they're saying on the bus, where's the bus driver? He said, I think the bus driver is dead. They said, we're
God.
on the way. They were talking to him all the way. And
Right.
they said, where are you? He said, I can hear the sirens. Keep coming, keep coming.
Right.
He led them all the way in.
Wow.
So that case has always stuck out to me.
Wow.
Suppose he had
Not
not
Had that
There
had
you go.
his cell phone,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so, but then you got the other cases of where somebody used a cell phone to bring trouble into the
To
school.
school. Right.
You see?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so it's just a real um touchy subject, a real controversial subject. But for me, safety of the kids and my kid in particular and all the rest of the kids I know, weighs heavy on my heart. So if we could have maybe a dialogue or community conversation about how to better approach this or
Hmm.
to make sure we have open communication
Hmm.
channels,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's something that's needed.
Wow. And what do you think about? I'm gonna change the subject a little bit. What do you think about kids actually really knowing first aid? Because you have a lot of kids that they play a lot, and a lot of them be eating candy while they wrestling, playing, and tumbling around a little bit. How important it is for a child, each children, just to know just a little bit of first aid.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm glad you brought that up. I had a serious thought on that, and I don't know if it's still being done or not. But one of the things I instituted was not just children having some first aid training, but also all of our bus drivers at one time
Right,
were trained in
right.
first aid
Hmm.
because when you get out on County Road 2 or County Road 54 up in Notasulga,
Mm-hmm.
you're in the middle
No,
of nowhere.
There
no
you
phone
go.
signal
You
probably.
don't know if you're going to have a signal, if you're
Right.
going to be able to call an ambulance or anything.
Mm-hmm.
We're riding with kids with diabetes,
Hmm.
sickle cell,
Cell. Yep.
epilepsy, all kinds of things. So, all of our bus drivers at one time, I hope they still are,
Hmm.
were trained in first aid
Okay. Okay.
CPR. Our lead nurse handled that to
Hmm.
make sure they all got trained. With students, again, those students who are in that career path for
Hmm.
health sciences,
Right.
that's one of the credentials that they get is
First
first
aid.
aid training. And there are several others that they get as well.
Hmm.
But they get that too. You have coaches in each school who have to be trained, and they
Hmm.
have to not only be trained in first aid, but also with the defibrillator.
Okay.
They have to
Oh.
be,
Okay.
trained on that. So all of those things are important, particularly when you have challenges to first
Hmm.
responses,
Mm-hmm.
ambulatory services, and hospital or urgent care
Hmm.
in your community.
Right.
So the more of us that can be first aid
Aid.
trained, the better. Having great, local physicians here
Hmm.
and things like that at ball games and things like
Mm-hmm.
that has
Right.
been, just a jewel
Hmm.
of a resource for us here. But the more we can
Do
do,
that.
Absolutely. I think age appropriateness, has to come into play because you have to meet certain Red Cross,
Right, got you.
standards
Mhm.
and criteria in order to, have those particular credentials. But another example, we had a bus driver. He's passed away now.
Okay.
He had a diabetic episode
Mm.
when he was driving the bus. His bus was coming out of the uh, exit driveway at George Washington Carver Elementary
Mhm.
School,
Mhm.
and he went out. His foot was on the gas.
Wow.
God.
We had 3 students who took that bus over. They took the bus over. One sat in his lap,
Took the bus over.
took the bus over, brought the bus to a halt.
Whoa.
The other one, again, called 911, and the
Mhm.
other student kept all of the little students calm and seated.
Wow.
And we gave them all kinds of recognitions at the board meeting and things like that. But that instituted a practice that the transportation director follows, that there are 2 designated students on each bus
Wow.
as kind of like driver assistants.
Right.
So that if something happens when that driver is driving or that driver needs some kind of help, they can step in and offer and render that help.
Wow.
Yeah, someone just said, "What do you think about having aides on school buses? Behavior is an issue on buses. Drivers have to drive. It can be a lot."
Well, I always say, my bus drivers, my bus drivers, I don't even know what adjective I would use for my bus drivers. Oh my God. They would all be in trouble today.
Right.
I mean, Mr. Fitzpatrick had a knife. And if you talked, he would make you put your finger on the back of the seat, and he would lay that knife against your finger. He would say, "You say one more word on this here bus, I'm gonna cut your finger off and throw it out the window." And we believed him.
Yeah.
We believed him. You hear me? Mr. Duncan Blackman would put you off on the side of the road
Ooh.
and leave
Oh
you
yeah. Oh yeah.
if you cut up on the bus. I mean, I got some bus stories I can't even tell about our bus drivers. But bus drivers are driving a rig.
Yeah.
They are driving an 18-wheeler.
Right.
Now, you would not expect a driver who is driving an 18-wheeler, because I've had some parents to say to me when some students were into it on the bus, "Well, what was the bus driver doing?"
Mhm.
And I really wanted to go against my Sunday school lesson and use some 4-letter words. What do you think he was doing? He was driving the bus. He can't be driving the bus
Get turned
and
around.
turn around. Hey, it didn't work like that. If you don't think you can do it in a 18-wheeler,
Mm-hmm.
you can't do it in a
In the
school
Bus.
bus.
That's right.
You can't do it in a school bus. And so when your child gets on that bus,
Mm-hmm.
he is supposed to sit down and obey. He
That's
should
right.
never have to be told to sit down, to get back in your seat, to stop hopping seats, to stop talking, or to do any of that. When you get on that bus is sacred.
Right.
That is a child's or children's life at stake.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And I've seen a bus fatality
Mhm.
that will stay with me until I leave this earth.
Wow.
And so it is not something we ever want any parent, any educator, any bus driver to experience. That child needs to get on that bus
Mhm.
and sit,
Mhm.
as my grandma say, sit your tail down.
Down.
Sit your tail down on the school bus. There's just no other way around it. Now, you can put an aid on that bus,
Yeah.
and if that bus is out of control, guess who's going to get bullied? That aid on the bus. If you
Wow.
don't believe me, you Google bullying the bus aid on the school bus.
Wow.
Kids throwing paper at the poor lady.
Yeah.
Kids are pulling the lady's hair, all kinds of stuff. And this not in Macon County now. I'm talking about nationally.
Nationally.
Nationally. It needs to be some tail tearing
Right. Right.
when you got kids on the bus acting
Yeah.
that way. Some tail tearing.
That goes back to the other question. What you think about disciplinary in school compared to what we were coming up? It was very
Out of the house.
we had it. You know what I mean?
Mr.
And that's what the reason why we are like we are now today,
Mm-hmm.
because you get it at home, you get it at school, you get it on the way, where your big brother come pick you up and they get you to, or your neighbors. You got a paddling everywhere. You know what I mean? And now it's to a point where kids don't really have nothing to like. Well, I ain't scared of nothing. Because they're not scared of whooping, because they're not
Not
going to
scared of
get
their
one.
parents.
They're not scared of their parents. They're not scared of teachers. They're not scared of preachers. They're not even scared of the police now. You know what I mean? So only thing they really scared of is rejection.
They're scared of not having their cell phone.
Yeah, that too. That too. That too.
Yeah, that's the punishment now. No,
Right.
no social, no
Social
social
media.
no devices. Um, this is the thing about uh paddling. You know, I got several versions on this, and all my stuff gets long. I'm sorry, because I have more than one view on it. You know, the I'm gonna go back to this. The best teacher I ever had, and I called her name earlier,
Miss Johnson.
Mrs. Janice C.
Right.
Johnson.
Johnson.
Right.
She never paddled.
She never paddled.
She never paddled. Anybody who had her, she never paddled. She never pinched.
Mm-hmm.
She never cussed.
Wow.
And she could elevate her voice, but she never yelled.
Wow.
Never. But she had the best discipline, I can tell you, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
at Lewis Adams.
Mm-hmm.
Then she came to South Macon, and probably one of the best disciplinarians at Booker T. Washington High School when she
Wow.
was
I
there.
agree.
But she never
Wow.
paddled.
Everybody
she had
talk
a,
about her.
She had a respect factor.
Everybody talk about
And
her.
so
Respect
sometimes paddling is the easy way out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's not needed.
Yeah.
I believe in paddling or spanking like this. If
Mhm.
I need to get your attention, I see you. I've told you not to go across the street
Right,
several
right.
times, right?
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden you take off to go across the street and you about to get hit by the car.
Right.
A SWAT
Yeah.
might be needed to save your life.
Right. That's
okay?
right.
But if what I need to talk to you about at that moment is really to have a conversation so you understand where I'm coming
Mhm.
from and what my expectations are,
Mhm.
whipping might be the easy way out if we don't put a conversation with it, because you're still not going to understand
Right.
Mhm.
what
Right.
my expectations
Right.
are. It's
Gotcha.
kind of like my grandmother whipping me. That's what she would say. Do it again here. Do it again
Yeah,
here.
yeah, right.
And I kept saying, why she want me to do it again? Why she want me to do it again? There was no conversation or context around the whipping.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It was just the whipping. Do it again here.
Yeah.
Or do it one more time.
Yeah.
You know, but there was never a conversation. And
Mhm.
so I think a lot of times we need to have more conversations with kids and children. But now when you see them about to touch a hot stove,
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
hit that hand real
Right.
quick,
Mhm.
Right.
because you're
Right.
getting them out of immediate danger.
Danger.
You know, and it's just like yelling. I need to yell at this moment.
Mhm.
But when that moment is over,
Mhm.
I'm coming back in character.
Mhm.
I'm not going to keep yelling for the next 2 weeks. You
Right.
see, so everything is about the context and the situation. It's also about the kid.
Mhm.
Some kids, you can beat them.
Mhm.
You can beat them until they have welts.
Right.
Mhm.
You can beat them with a fan belt,
Mhm.
which is, you know,
And-
going too far.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they still going to do the same
Same
thing.
thing.
Mhm.
Same thing.
Mhm.
That kid doesn't respond to that type of punishment. So you have to almost find out what works with
What
every
works.
every child.
Right.
And times are different. Here's the other thing.
Okay.
The last time I paddled a child, I was principal at Tuskegee Institute Middle School.
Mhm.
Mom had told me, yes, you can paddle my child.
Mhm.
Child was in the hall just using the F word, just F-U-F. I said, you know what? I'm going to tear your tail up today. I had just had surgery, and I remember the doctor said, don't,
Yeah.
lift,
Yeah,
whatever.
right. Yeah.
So I had a small guy who was my AP. I got him. I said, you're going to have to give her 3 licks today.
Mhm.
And he did. They were baby licks. I talked about him. I said, those were wuss
Yeah.
licks.
Yeah.
They,
Yeah.
were, they weren't hard enough to handle a flea. And that evening, her mom called me. She said, did you paddle so-and-so? I said, yes, and I left you a message, and I sent you a written note home. Tell you why, because I know you want me to handle business.
Mhm.
She said, well, if it had been you, Miss Brooks, I wouldn't say anything, but you let a man paddle her, and he gonna have paddled her too hard.
Mhm.
And she sued me.
Wow.
She sued me. She sued
Really?
me.
Wow.
She sure did. And from that day to this one, I have not paddled anybody else's
Wow.
child outside of my own children,
Children.
niece,
Yeah.
and nephew.
That's strong.
I did not. And so we're in such a litigious society
Society.
now where everybody's so. And she came back and apologized to me. She came back and apologized. She said, some people told me to do that. That's what she said. She said, some people told me to do that.
Strong.
And I told her, I said, that's why I pay my insurance.
Right.
So, that type of thing. But I was doing it thinking I was helping the child and helping her.
Right.
Talk to the child, let the child spend the night with me, all kinds of stuff.
Right.
We had a relationship.
Right.
But at that moment, she felt that that was what she needed to do. And so, I've always been a different kind of parent, in terms of you can say something to my child, and then I'm going to say something to my child,
Right.
that type of thing.
Right.
And I don't ever, even if I disagree with what an educator's saying, I'm not going to say that in front of my child, because I think we can take respect from a teacher by saying and discussing things sometimes in front of kids, unless it's something that really needs to be discussed and it's truly an abusive situation, because sometimes there are.
Right.
But I just think we have to really think about who we're trying to help and how we're trying to help them.
The reason why I brought up that because in the school system, about dealing with the paddling, I had a friend of mine, and he was in his son life a lot. You know what I mean? He wasn't, but here and there, everywhere. But he had a son by a young lady, and she raised him. She raised his son. But when he got to a certain age, he got a little out of hand, and she was like, "Well, I'm gonna let your daddy handle you." Once you get to teenager stage and stuff like that. And so he called me and asked me for my advice. What do you think he should? I said, man, you need to sit down and take a ride with him and talk to him, man. That's what you need to do, man. Because he told me I'm finna go up there and choke him out, man. Finna go out there and choke him out. I said, for what? You hadn't paddled that man. You never ever whooped him. You know what I mean? He's a teenager now. He might try you. You know what I'm talking about? Ain't no telling what.
Try him.
Yeah, go try him. I said, ain't no telling what can happen out of this, bro. What you need to do is say, look, man, let's take a ride. Let's take a ride. Let's talk. You got to get to know your kid. You don't know why he act out. You know what I mean? He might be acting out because he wants some attention. You don't know why those kids act out these days. It's different. Different kids do it for different reasons. Why he acting out? Get him and talk with him. You know what I mean? I know his mom told him that, he's out to school cutting up and doing this. He's been doing it for several months or whatever. Get him and take him for a ride. That's what you need to do. Get him and talk to him. And he said, man, that's the best thing he ever could have did. Because you just can't just jump and go and whoop kids, and they never had a whooping in their life. And then these days now, where you have adults and you have people that have kids now, they never got a whooping, so they don't know how far to take it. You know what I mean? If you never got whooping, you don't know how to whoop a child.
Yeah, that's very, very true. I can specifically remember. I remember this like it was yesterday. I was a senior in high school. I hope my daughter didn't hear this. I was a senior in high school, and my grandmother had said something to me. I can't remember what I said to her, but I remember the situation like yesterday. And she said something to me, and I came back with a sass.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing I knew, she had slapped me across my face and lips, and they were burning. Ooh, they were burning like lava. And I can remember balling up my fist.
Ooh.
A natural reaction.
Right.
I can remember balling up my fist, and I can remember God speaking to me, saying, you don't want to do that.
Right.
He did. And I unballed my fist. But my point is that when children reach a certain age, I was 18.
Right. That's right.
When children reach a certain age, they are basically grown, And the way you take them when they are little and the way you take them when they become adults is completely different. And I was taller than her then. I was bigger than her. And I could have easily probably taken her, but it was a respect factor. It was just a natural thing. Somebody slapped you, you just go like that. But something just came over me. And I just broke down crying and said, Grandma, I'm so sorry.
Right.
I'm so sorry for speaking to you like that, because she was trying to help me be a better person. So sometimes, the relationship that you have, the way that you approach things is a growth factor for all of them.
Absolutely.
Because later she said, I shouldn't have slapped you. And we talked about it.
Right.
We talked about it. So parents and grandparents don't always have the answer. A lot of times without you intervening, he would have gone up there and choked him out.
That's
Because that's all he may have known to do. And so a lot of times when we parent the way our parents parented us. And most of us grew up where our folks didn't talk to us like that. You know, you get out of grown folks' business.
That's
You
right.
going out there somewhere. We in here count money.
Mhm.
That's why a lot of us struggle so
Right.
with knowing how credit work and
Mhm.
knowing how things work because we weren't allowed to be a part of those
That's
things,
right.
you
That's
know.
right.
And so hopefully we can learn
Mhm.
from our own generation
Mhm.
and our own experiences and help out our friends.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I don't like, and I see it all the time on social media, is that when a person says they're having a problem with something and then all the friends get on the friend side.
Okay.
Nobody ever says, did you step back and take a look at where you may
Right.
have gone wrong?
Right.
Oh, I'll jump with you.
Right.
But how do you know your friend is not jumping wrong?
That's right.
You
Whoever.
know, those kinds of things. So we really have to strive to help each
Mhm.
other
Mhm.
more so we make the right choices. Because you could have easily said, I'll go up there with your
Which, yeah,
man
yeah,
and help
yeah,
you
I
choke
got
him
you.
out.
Yeah,
You see what I
yeah,
mean?
exactly.
But you didn't do that.
Mm-mm.
You used it as a teaching lesson
Mhm.
for him, and then he benefited from
Right.
it.
Right.
Mhm.
Someone said too many. Well, Andrew Darn said too many parents try to be their kids' friends, bust their head now and worry about heaven later,
Yeah.
cause the police gonna kill them.
Yeah.
Well, see, I don't think that works a lot of times.
Mhm.
It works sometimes, but I don't think you can just hit a kid upside the head and not tell him why
Right.
or
You
not
gotta have
talk
some kind
with
of
him.
conversation.
You got to have some kinds of conversation. And kids these days, this Gen Z,
Mhm.
they don't just accept stuff at face value.
Right.
And you know
Mhm.
why? Because they can fact check you.
Right. That's right.
They got this little girl on TV, she on a commercial, and she telling her grandma that she lied. Because grandma said Chuck E. Cheese was closed.
Yeah, I saw
Lord,
that. I saw that.
she said Chuck E. Cheese is not
He got the
closed.
phone.
She got the phone
Yeah.
saying Chuck E. Cheese now open.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can't just tell kids anything
Anything. That's
because
right.
they can find out more information
Right.
in a second than we could
Mhm.
find out in a decade.
That's right.
You see?
Absolutely. That's right.
So you've got to talk to
To-
kids. Now that don't mean you might not thump them because my husband will thump my son in a minute.
Mhm.
But you still got to talk to a man. This why I want you to know this.
Yeah.
This why you need to know this.
I had talked to a couple of cats that they were locked up now, but and he said, man, the worst whooping he ever got. Get what the worst whooping he got
What?
when his mama told him, said, "I told you so.
Mm.
I told you so." He did his opposite what she told him not to do. You know what I mean? He did it anyway. He got himself messed up and said, "I told you so." That's the worst whooping he ever got.
Because that was that guilt whipping.
That's right.
That guilt whipping.
That guilt whipping.
That
I
guilt whipping.
told you so.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the last thing you want to hear. I told you so about they told you not to do it.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. My grandmother had a saying.
Mhm.
You know, we're interested in church people because we were Southern Baptist down at Sweet Pilgrim Missionary Baptist Church, but all the Southern Baptist people can cuss when they're not in church, and so she used to always say, "A hard head,
Make a soft.
totes, or sore." I'm
Mhm.
gonna use the word I'm gonna use behind, but that wasn't what she used.
Mhm.
But that's what she said. A hard head, totes,
Totes.
a sore.
Someone
Behind.
said
She
about
had
sense
all
and
these,
less sense.
all these sayings.
Do anybody remember this when they was younger? When a lot of times that some things you probably did that you could have been fussed at or whooped, but they cut their eyes at you. They give you that eye cut and they just cut you all the way up. Just that eye cut. You know what I mean? They ain't got to say nothing. They just look at you with that eye and just cut their eye at you like that, and everything just cease.
That church talking. That church talking was one. And you were back there cutting up in church.
Mhm.
That I came across. And you just got right back in line.
yeah,
Right
yeah,
back
yeah,
in line. Oh, I can tell you so many things I got in trouble for, especially at church. Chewing gum in
Especially at
church.
boy.
I got a nice slap
Mm-hmm.
for back there chewing like a grazing cow
Right.
on some gum because you weren't supposed to. Now, you could have a little piece of
Candy.
dusty peppermint
Oh yeah.
in your mouth that had come down out the pocketbook with all that lint on it and all that.
Man.
You can have that.
Avon perfume on it.
Avon perfume tasting in the wrapper. Yes, but you better not be in that church.
Yeah.
It's like them
chewing any
church
gum.
licks hit a little different or something,
Ooh,
man.
and they were
I remember my
embarrassing
dad
too.
taking me outside the church on the little step, whipping me, man. It's like they just hit a little
Man,
different.
listen, I think the Lord be behind them too, man.
Yeah.
Jesus be
Like,
behind
I'ma
them
give you-
whipping, man. Like,
I'ma give you a
like,
little
oh man,
straw."
what the world? It pop the Holy Ghost in your son, but you get right.
Ooh, you want to get Jesus on the main line so they can stop.
Man.
Let me ask you this. This is another question. and I'll be through, Booty. You can.
Right. We can.
Do
okay.
you ever think teachers would get paid what they worth? Because it's funny to me how a doctor can make all this money, but who taught the doctor?
Right. Real talk.
An engineer
Right.
can make all this money.
Preacher. Come on, preacher.
Who taught the engineer?
Keep on preaching. Come on with it. Come on with it, baby. Come on with it. Willing to preach it now. Come
Do
on.
you ever think? I'm just saying because I was a teacher.
Come on with it.
I remember graduating. I graduated from college. Went to Atlanta, investigated child abuse and neglect. Didn't like it at all. It's crazy.
Mhm.
Brian Hightower, I think he was teaching at BTW, and I told him I was ready to come home. He said, "Come on back home, man. They hiring teachers."
Mhm.
Brian said, "You want to come home?" I said, "Yeah, I want to come home." Next day, he was up there. Well, that weekend, he was up there. We loaded the Cadillac down, came on back home. Went to the Board of Education. May you rest in peace, Joseph Asbury. I think it's Joseph Asbury.
Yeah, ask Mr. Asbury. Talk my chief.
I was in there filling out an application. He said, "You want to be a teacher?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm going to interview you right now." Interviewed me, became a teacher. But that salary, Jesus, Jesus Christ.
Mhm.
That salary, man, I couldn't. I think at that point in time, man, it might have been 26,000 a year, maybe. My check might have
Probably.
been 1,700 a month.
Mhm.
Imagine 16, 17, and I'm only getting paid one time a month.
What time a month?
16, 1,700 a month. And imagine if I had a family.
Mhm.
Bro, we spent 16, you know?
Yeah.
So do you ever, I know it's a little better now,
Mm.
but do you ever think it's going to get to the point where someone just bites the bullet and say, "Hey, listen, man, honestly, teaching is $100,000 job easily."
Easy. Right.
For what they
I
have.
like
Because you're a teacher, you're a babysitter,
that. Mm-hmm.
you're a protector,
Parent too.
a parent,
Mhm.
you know?
Well, that's definitely a two-part answer. I remember my first teaching contract was, and this was in 1990. It was 20,000, like $122.
Wow.
Say what now?
$20,122. And you know, my friends who had majored in like engineering, nursing, making 2, 3, 4 times what I was making. And if you had
Entry
an
level, too.
apartment, you had a car, you basically had nothing
Right.
left over. And so if your family was like my family, the expectation is that now that you finished college and you're doing well, you're going to send back.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You're going to send back
That's right.
something to the little cousins,
Right.
the little, you know, and I'm like,
Right.
I'm barely making it myself.
Right.
Um, and so it has always been much too low,
Mm-hmm.
has stayed too low, and is still too low. And the reason I say it's still too low is because if the starting teacher salary, which right now I think will end up maybe about 44, 45 next year for a bachelor's degree, could buy what it bought just pre-COVID,
Mm-hmm.
you know, when you could have gotten a nice home for
Right.
still 199,000, 200,000. Now you got to pay 450
Right.
to build a home. Then you got an increase, but it was sucked up by inflation.
Right.
So you really hadn't increased anything.
Mhm.
I mean, a car payment now is going to be from $700 to $1,400 if you get anything brand new.
Right.
So yeah, it went up, but everything else went up too. And that's what's happened with
Student
teacher
loans.
raises. Well, yes, student loans and with teacher raises. The teachers get a raise, and when I say teachers, I'm talking to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But the health insurance goes up.
Right.
So the raise gets eaten up by the
Eaten up by-
health insurance.
Mhm.
The general public sees, oh, y'all got a raise.
Right.
But did you see that the health insurance went up the same percentage as the raise? So my net for going home with more money, there's nothing.
Right.
There's absolutely nothing. There are a few good things that have happened in Alabama. So if you teach math or science and you can get on the teams contract,
Yeah, I heard about that.
the teams contract is really nice. And what I like about the teams contract is it keeps good teachers in the classroom. Because what was happening is that most of your, not all, but a lot of your good teachers would leave and try to go into supplemental teaching field, like being the librarian, being the
Okay,
counselor,
gotcha.
being the
Right,
assistant
right.
principal, being the principal, not necessarily because that was your first love, but that was the only way for you to try to supplement
Mm-hmm.
your income.
Right,
And so that's
gotcha.
why a lot of people did, especially men
Man,
who
right.
were the heads of
Household,
households.
right.
But even with that, you needed an additional degree. So
Mhm.
either you had to pay more money to go back to school or you had to get a student loan.
Long.
So if I can go to school for 4 years and be an engineer starting at 110, or I could go to school and be a math teacher starting at 44,
Mhm.
which one is a student likely to pick?
Gotcha.
They're gonna pick the engineer.
Engineer.
Right.
Okay. Most times, every now and then you just get a bleeding heart of a person who
Mhm.
is I just absolutely don't want to do anything but teach.
Right.
And so it's becoming harder and harder to attract kids to the profession. And then not only you think about the salary, it's the work-life balance.
Mhm.
When I hang up my engineering outfit for the day,
Mhm.
I'm done.
You're done.
Good.
If I go to the bowling alley, if I go skiing, if I go anything, that's what I'm doing. Work-life balance. If I hang up my teaching coat, I'm still going to be talking to a parent when I get home.
Right.
Do
I am
lesson
still going to be
plan.
doing lesson plans.
Mhm.
I'm still going to be grading papers.
Right.
On the weekend, when I go to Walmart, I'm trying to see if I can put that in my budget to have this supply for my classroom next
Right.
week so it
Mhm.
never turns off.
Right.
But there are a lot of great things about the profession.
Mhm.
The salaries are improving,
Mhm.
improving. And so if we can get inflation under control,
Mhm.
the salaries are much better than they've ever been.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
There are a lot of ways you can enhance your salary. You can become nationally board certified. That can add $10,000 or more onto your
Wow.
salary. You get your master's, which is probably a $10,000 investment,
Mhm.
but you get that extra $10,000,
Every year.
every
Yourself.
year the rest
Okay.
of your life. So it
Mhm.
pays for
Okay.
itself.
Gotcha.
The best thing I think about the teaching profession, though, is that your contract is not 300 days a year. So when you think about spring break,
Mm.
you should be on spring break.
Right.
What we have to do as educators is take the spring break.
Mhm.
Don't go up to the school, painting the room,
Right.
working on your lesson plans for when you get back,
Right.
because
Mhm.
the school is still going to be there.
Right.
Mhm.
Take your spring
You
break.
hear that, Denisha Streeter?
Take your spring break.
What about the people that either they don't fell behind before spring break and they're trying to catch up, during spring break, or they want to get in advance, you know what I mean?
Take your spring break.
Cause see, that's what my wife tried to do.
Yeah.
When it's a break,
Try
she
to,
be like, we got a break. What I'm gonna try to do is jump on my lesson
yeah,
plan.
I'm
But
get ahead.
gonna tell you
and
this.
then it comes something else.
I was like that. I
Mhm.
was like that. I lived in my classroom and I lived at my school. And what you come to realize when you get older,
Mhm.
especially with my children,
Mhm.
that is time you will
can't get
never
back.
get back.
Right.
And if I have had enough people around me to pass away,
Mhm.
that I have realized that your office or your classroom is going to be cleaned out.
Mhm.
And pretty soon, other than those students you taught in your family,
Mhm.
no one will even know who you were.
Preach.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so
Preach.
the
Ooh-wee.
people who are going to know who you are
Mhm.
are the people that you need to make sure you carve some time out for.
There you go.
And now I don't mean because I have a high standard. If I'm going to work a job,
Mhm.
I'm facing that right now.
Mhm.
I said if I went back to work part-time, if I went back into anything, I wasn't going to be the last person to leave. I
Right.
wasn't going to do that. And so I've had to already,
Mhm.
that self-talk I told you, I
Mhm.
already said self,
Mhm.
you're violating because you've got to put your kids and your loved ones up there as equally as you do that job. Because I always valued my job.
Mhm.
I wouldn't say that my job valued me,
Mhm.
but I valued my job. I gave every job I've ever had the best that I had,
Mhm.
but I wouldn't say that every job valued me.
Right.
Your job forgets you before you walk out of the door.
Right. Absolutely.
Everything that you work for may be gone
Mhm.
overnight,
Right.
but you do the best you can while you can, but don't lose yourself
Mhm.
and your work-life balance in that job.
Wow.
And I see that's the thing that bothers me with my wife. She values the job, but then she values us as well.
Mhm.
So it's not like the job is getting more
More.
than we,
Right.
but I see it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Equal up.
Like
to you.
it ain't like,
Yeah.
oh you just working,
Yeah.
but she working, but then she get at
Right.
so if she through at 10 o'clock, now 10 o'clock, she go give me and Mia that. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So
gotcha.
that's the part that kind
Well,
of
here's the thing,
bothers
what
me.
I don't hear in there. Let me tell you what I don't hear in there. So this is for the wife.
Okay.
I hear the job,
Mm-hmm.
and I hear you and me.
She don't have her.
I want to know where she is.
Yeah.
See, where's her bubble bath?
I
Where's
got
her Calgon moment?
Got you.
That's
Sure.
the part I'm saying.
Mhm.
And as this is Women's History Month, right?
Yeah, Women History Month. That's right.
Okay. As Black women,
Mhm.
we are always in the superwoman mode.
She is.
You know, the
Superwoman, that's
superwoman
right.
mode.
You're right.
And so that was the most difficult thing for me as both a principal, but even more so as a superintendent, because when my male counterparts, and most of them were counterparts, they weren't getting a call, what we gonna eat tonight?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I worked 18 hours straight.
Right.
Mhm.
But my next concern is
Mhm.
what is my family going to eat
Right.
tonight? Are my kids' clothes ready? Do I
Right.
have the field trip money? See,
Mhm.
all that still
Mhm.
falls
That's right.
back on
Mhm.
mom,
Mom.
because mom has an expectation and a role.
That's right.
Then you got the community
Mhm.
calling on you to be
Mhm.
here, to be there, to
Right.
speak at this event, all those kinds of things. And so that work-life balance is critical. You've got to find a little heart in the middle
Mhm.
that has me in it,
Right. Right.
that has me
Right.
in it. And I have worked hard to do that every night from about 8:30 to 10.
Mhm.
I try to put me in that little heart. That's me. And I don't care what me is doing. If I'm just listening to Jennifer Hudson on the radio, that's my favorite
Mhm.
singer, or John Legend.
Mhm.
If I am, taking a bubble bath, if I'm exercising, I try to put that me time in there, because literally for 30 plus years of my life, there was no me in there.
Wow.
It was either the job or the family,
Mhm.
and you will lose yourself. And again, this is the thing about death. I was talking to my best friend, who used to be my assistant principal, Dr. Dorothy Kanyungwa McDonald, about this last night. I saw two families this weekend, and they could not do anything without the person who was alive in their family. But when that person passed,
Mhm.
they didn't miss a beat.
Mhm.
They picked up
Picked up.
and they got it done.
Got it done.
They got it done. So that means you can carve out a little bit of me time,
Yeah.
because it's still going to happen.
That's right.
If you got to get in there and use your amateur chef skills, you and me are going to eat
Mhm.
if she carves out a little me
Me
time.
time.
Mhm.
Right.
And what I want the men to do
Mhm.
is help them carve out
That
a
me
little
What,
me
what,
time.
what about when you have that strong?
That's all right. You
I don't know.
strong
I don't.
too.
But I don't know how to. I try. Listen. I tell man. Okay. So everybody know my wife has lupus.
Mhm.
I do
Um,
too.
Yep.
She's a
Mhm.
dedicated educator. I mean, that's her calling, hands down.
Mhm.
Um, I've seen my wife tap me, like, "Can you help me get out the bed?" Can't
Mhm.
get out the bed,
Right.
but she's going to work.
Right.
Mhm.
And my thing is, D, if God forbid something happen to you, by the end of next week, it'll be a posting up looking for a sixth grade teacher.
Mhm.
Mhm. Mhm.
But
Put that on.
no matter, her focus is the same approach that she take for her family, those kids.
Mhm.
I remember this when she was in Selma. It, man, used to frustrate me so bad, but it was those kids were different, and I get it. She had to be there because she felt if she didn't go today, some of those kids might not eat.
That's true. That's true.
You know,
Right.
That's
so
true.
she
Right.
felt. So how do you? I don't know. I mean, I could say, babe,
Yeah.
but I.
So it doesn't have to be something every single day, because, like I said, I didn't do it for 37 years.
Mhm.
This something every day has only been, in the last 2 years since I
Okay.
retired. Um, Things that I didn't do when I was working.
Mhm.
I didn't keep my doctor's appointments. If we got into a situation and I felt I was needed,
Mhm.
I'd call and cancel. I don't
Right.
care if it was dentist,
Mhm.
doctor. I can't tell you how many doctor's appointments I missed.
Physical therapy.
Physical
Therapy.
therapy, all those kinds of things. You cancel them because you put the students and the job before
Oh,
you put yourself.
right.
My eating schedule and habits,
Mhm.
terrible. It was going to be fast food, some I could drive through and pick up real quick, or it was bad stuff like sliced house meat and crackers,
Stop
Bainas,
telling the house business.
Bainas and crackers. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
So the diet was bad.
Mhm.
the weight gain, especially in the middle section, because I'm not eating properly.
Right.
I'm not doing any exercise except walking up and down the halls, maybe at school, or stressed out about a situation. And so I didn't even take most of my vacation days. You know, I was at the office, and I had a couple of other coworkers who were the same way. We were always at the office. And like I said, one of those coworkers recently passed away, even since I've retired. And the thing about it is, again, you can reflect. And I'm not saying what I did then because I was just like your wife, but reflecting now, especially that I'm over 50,
Right.
I see that I should have put some me time in there. Because when I stepped away, it was just like an erasure. It was just like an erasure. Like they took the eraser and just erased me off the map. And when I say erasure, I just mean the things that you did, you're not the person there to be doing those things anymore. The whole organization just moves on.
Gotcha.
And so whether you die, you retire, or you leave, that's how organizations work.
Right.
And so all I'm saying is that you have to find a little niche in there to do something for yourself. And you can't necessarily start with every day, but you could say, out of my week off, one of these days is going to be my day.
Me.
Even if it's just a days of our lives moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even if it's just a bubble bath.
That's right.
Do something for yourself.
She said, I'm going to do better. I hear you.
Something for yourself. Something for yourself.
Whoa, boy, we had a long. This is a long one.
People, but listen,
this
people
is
have
some-
enjoyed.
Yeah.
Like this
this
is
is-
probably the most interaction
Right. From the
on my
Facebook.
page, I
Mine don't
know.
shut down on me.
that I've had.
Now, I sent you this thing from Judge Biggers. I don't know if you could put it up. I emailed it to you. This State of the Youth Town Hall meeting is Tuesday, April 2nd at
Coming
the
up.
complex from 6 to 8.
Okay. Okay.
Okay? So y'all want to put that on your
Plug it in. Yeah.
You
page?
say you sent it to me?
I sent it to your cell
Facebook.
phone.
Oh, you sent? Okay. Oh yeah, I got it on Do Not Disturb.
Yes.
So we're good.
So anybody who wants to come out and talk about the youth, the children, programs they would like to see, any concerns or needs. I do want to get on one more thing. I know
Okay.
y'all want to leave.
No, we
But I
good.
wanna
We
get
good.
on
We
this.
good. Hey, keep spreading
Now.
the gems, baby. Keep spreading the gems.
I am so happy with what we've been able to do in schools to increase our extracurricular activities,
Okay.
from band to choir to archery to soccer, baseball, softball, track,
think they got
field.
Girls flag football.
flag
football, yeah.
all of that.
Right.
And you know, before I left, my intention had been to put in a tennis court, and I don't know where that process is, but I want to get to the community
Okay.
parks
Okay.
and rec. We really need more parents, more community members, more voices being involved in us getting community-based programs, because see, you can't play for the Alabama High School Athletic Association
Right.
until you get to 7th grade. But we
Okay.
can't have a good high school program unless we have a good
Feeder program.
community program. You got to have a feeder
Program.
program.
That's right.
And so I really do want parents to get more involved with that, because we need facilities,
Mhm.
we need a pool,
Mhm.
we need either our parks redone, or we can build brand new parks. Sometime if you can't get the other park up to par, we got enough land, we can get new
That's
parks.
right.
But whatever we need to do, we really got to work on getting our parks and rec really off the ground. And the guys there do a great job
They do.
with the limited funds they have, but that's an area where we need to do a lot more community work. And I think when we have all of our kids more involved, that also will help.
Right.
Behavior, social outlets,
Right.
interaction, all those kinds of things.
Wow.
All those kinds
Wow.
of things.
Ooh wee.
I'm gonna put that plug in there.
Plug in now.
Did you want to say something about this? Or that was just you just writing.
Write notes on it.
Just
Oh,
writing
I was gonna tell you, this is for you, Booty Rush or anybody else.
Okay.
If you are a math person and you're ending your career, you're retiring, you've never taught, but you want to teach, Auburn University, in conjunction with Tuskegee University, have a grant program.
Wow.
And they will pay you probably about $25,000 a year, and pay for your tuition and
Wow.
everything to go back to school and get certified. And you have to agree to teach math for 3 years in
Wow.
the state of Alabama. And so it's
Wow.
called Dream Math Master's Program.
Okay.
So if there's anybody interested, now you cannot have taught before
Okay.
at all. This is purely for, say, somebody was an engineer, they retired from Bowen,
Mm-hmm.
they're not working, they want to get certified as a math teacher. The grant is there to pay for them to get certified and to give them a stipend,
Mm.
living stipend while they're doing that.
That's great. Yeah.
So that's what that's about.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, man, we had a really great. We got to get you back on here,
Sure.
Dr. Brooks, and because let me ask you this before you leave. How well did you enjoy this show? Put a plug that, plug that, plug that.
The best. Move out of the way, Jay Leno. Move out of the way, Arsenio Hall. Nobody can touch a candle to these two right here. This was fabulous. Don't say nothing. Don't say nothing stupid podcast. All right, very good, guys. We need as many communication tools and channels that promote positivity in the community as we possibly can. So thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out too. And that's all I guess. Me and Booty talk about it all the time. It's just amazing. Like everybody that we've reached out to, no one have been like, no.
No, nobody, not
When
one
we tell
person.
them what it is, you know, they like excited to come.
Right,
So,
right.
we appreciate you for taking.
Well, thank you for the invitation. The
Right.
invitation, just goes a long, long way.
And we got a list of people that's getting ready to coming up very soon. But this month we just dealing with Women History Month, and then we got so many women now that we might lag it on
Lag it
to a
on.
little bit to April.
Okay.
Yeah, because we got a couple of more. Because next Monday gonna be
Yeah.
April.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
so we're gonna have to lag on a little bit until
Yeah.
April
Yeah.
because we got a couple more females that we want to interview and all that. But this is a really, really great podcast. Willie, man, we have really outdone ourselves a little bit with this one, and we're gonna continue to do this because this is a positive pipeline podcast. And what we want to do is just give a good message out to our community because there's so much other stuff is going on. And they say, if you want change, be the change.
Yeah.
Be the
And
change.
that's what we're trying to do.
It's all about building the morale of the community.
Building morale because especially you, John Andrew, baby, it's a certain type of spiritual, emotional feel you have for this community here. It's just something about it, man. I can't explain it. If I sit here and say about 15,000 words, I cannot explain it. It just got to be in you, not on you. You know what I mean? And that's a big difference. You know what I mean? So that's what it is. John Andrew, baby, if you were born, Lee County, Bull County, whatever. But if you're from Tuskegee, and if you've been here over 6 months, you are Tuskegean because that's after your probation period. That's why. That's just where I feel because you had time enough to embrace a lot of spiritual, emotional, and great things that we have to offer here in Tuskegee. 6 months, that's all you need. 6 months here in Macon County, you are on Macon County. That's what I gotta say. But I want to give a big shout out before we leave. I don't want to give a big shout out to my wife and kids. I love you guys. I want to give a big shout out to this panel here right here. We had a really, really great time here. We way over 2 hours, I think. I do apologize to my listeners that was listening to me on Facebook. My phone went out on me, but we're gonna go to Willie Streeter page and also go to Don't Say Nothing Stupid page. You can be able to log in and because we need some more people to invite on the show, Willie, because we don't have that many people that's plugged in with our YouTube channel.
Yeah, make sure you go on YouTube.
Go to YouTube
and
and
subscribe
and
because
subscribe.
right now we're doing it on Facebook to have the engagement going on. But after a while, it's not going to be on Facebook.
Right.
The only way you'll be able to see it is on YouTube. So just go. It don't cost you a dime. Just it's a little button that say subscribe. It don't cost you nothing. You
That's
got
right.
free Wi-Fi or something. Just hit the subscribe button.
Yeah,
That's all you got to do.
that's all you got to do. Hit the subscribe button. And any last words, Willie?
Now, big shout out to my wife. She's over there in the other room making T-shirts. That's her me time. So I guess she's getting some me time. But big shout out to her, man. I think she got a lot. She was coming. Ooh, she was coming. Ooh. So big shout out to my wife and shout out to Mia. I know she's go see this. So that's it. Shout out to my mama. Oh,
Last word, Dr. Brooks?
Oh, well, since we're shouting out, let me just
Yeah,
shout
because
out
booty get you in trouble.
to the husband of 34 years, Mr. Brooks. Thank you for being my man, man. Upcoming graduate, Miss Cassidy Brooks, graduating May 20th from Booker T.
Clap.
Washington High School. We've had a wonderful, wonderful educational ride. My little fella Nixon, he's just in the 5th grade. We still chugging away
Okay.
at Tuskegee Public.
Oh man. All right. So we this is gonna be it for the podcast for today. This is our seventh this is our seventh episode. And we'll see you guys next week. We have a new guest coming in. If you got anyone in mind, please hit us up. Hit us on the comment. Don't say nothing stupid. You got anybody name that want to get involved, want to get on the show? Hit us up. Let us know. All right.
Peace out.
We
Head
see
nod.
y'all.
Head nod.
Let's go
Head
around.
nod.
Oh, we got to be ready. Ready, set, go. There you go.